It's the start of a new series where I had 5 seasons to win a top European trophy, but used in a club from one of the less stronger leagues. And first up, we're off to Turkey. And we need to get into Europe as fast as possible, so for this reason, we choose Galatasaray. So season 1 begins with us rightfully installed as title favourites. I don't think that will be the main problem. We've set ourselves a tricky task of winning the Champions League, because if we keep winning the league in Turkey, that's the competition we're going to be in. As a club, Galatasaray had already spent pretty big in the transfer market, including Ziyech and Batshuayi. I brought in just 2 players on free transfers. The first was Sami Castello, who's just going to be back up for the wide areas. And the second was Rafinha, formerly of Barcelona and PSG. I see him playing out wide, potentially as a wide playmaker. Which takes me to the tactic, and it's a bit of a 4-4-2 with a little funky role on the right hand side in the wide playmaker who will float around, a volante to surge up, fullbacks to provide width and overlaps, and then we've got a great strike force of Icardi and Osimhen. We really need to take advantage of the fact we've got Osimhen for this season, because next season he goes back to Napoli. And the start of the season, it looked really good with Victor already scoring a load. So domestically, I'm really confident. Champions League, we've had to go through a qualifying path against HGK. Now we've just dismantled Sparta Prague. I'm confident in the tactic. For a season 1 squad, it's pretty good. Let's see how we do. With season 1 wrapped, as expected, we stormed the title, but it's a bit more impressive than even I thought. We only lose the 2 matches, winning 32 out of 38 and scoring 113 times, only conceding 20. So domestically, it's performed fantastically. Those are the players that started. The front 2 of Icardi, as you would probably expect, 32 goals, 24 in the league, and Osimhen, pretty similar, 34 goals, 23 in the league. Big question is, did we do it in Champions League season 1?
Are you ready?
And the answer is no. Emphatically no. Yes, despite the cracking form in the league, we were found out in the Champions League, finishing bottom of the group, and you guessed it, we lost to Aston Villa. Now let's talk the positives. The positives are, throughout the season, we were pretty spectacular. You don't get a league campaign like that, having performed badly. And as you can see from our season 1 stats, we were totally dominant. Therefore, going into season 2, I'm not going to change too much. Ziyech is leaving for Saudi, and we know Osimhen's going back to Napoli. Therefore, there's a few gaps to fill, but I am going to keep pretty much the same tactic. And we also need to get a new goalkeeper, because long-serving Muslera, he's leaving us at the age of 38. The good news is we have 28 million to spend, and there's also a few very decent players that are currently out on loan that might be able to jump into our team. Season 2 with Galatasaray, some good moves in the transfer market. We brought in 18 million and we spent 32. First in is our new goalkeeper, Wojciech Szczesny, comes in from Barcelona on a free. Sergio Gomez for a really attacking fullback for 4 million. I brought in Makoku on loan to replace Osimhen. And perhaps for some, a surprising signing, Ben Brereton Diaz, 20 million. He just does really well in FM. So going into season 2, I'm not going to change too much, but we do have Zaniolo who can play down that left-hand side. I think he'll be a really good addition. Now, we've got Wilf Zaha as well. Not sure what to do with him because he is 32, and in the Turkish league, you do have to register a maximum amount of foreign players, and we might just be tipping over the edge, so I might cash in on him, especially with that wage of £105,000 a week. Rafinha last season was good. He's 32 now, so his attributes are on the decline, but last season he was good in terms of goals and assists, and in pre-season so far, he does have 5 assists, so he's probably worth persevering with at this stage. Up front, I've got no problems with Icardi. He'll continue to be class. It's just whether or not Makoku can realise his potential and replace Osimhen. Now in pre-season he scored 5 in 5, so the signs are good. But we do have to keep an eye on these registration rules. Like I said, maximum 12 foreign players, so there is a few that are going to miss out. It's just the way it is. At the minute, Zaha does miss out. But I know this tactic does well in the league. Let's see how it goes. We haven't played a league match yet, but we've looked really good in pre-season. We start with Fenerbahce in the Super Cup, and then we've got to qualify for the Champions League again. We need to see progress this season. Season 2 comes to a close with the team chemistry pretty much perfect, and it's our second successive league title. We lost 4 matches this time, still bagged another 120 goals, only conceding 27. It's safe to say this tactic is built for Turkish football. How about the Champions League? Well, it reverts to the league phase this time, and we come in at 21st, finishing just above Juventus, Celtic and Ajax, winning 3 out of the 4 matches, including a big win against Barcelona, but we did lose the 4. PSG, Tottenham, Leipzig, and really disappointingly, to Antwerp. Into the knockout rounds we went, where we drew RB Leipzig in the playoffs. Zaniolo got us the win in the first match, but in the return game, Leipzig turned it round with a 3-1 win. We fail again in the Champions League. Right, we're in a tough spot here because we are dominating our domestic league, comfortably winning the league back-to-back. Just can't get over the hump in Europe. Now, the good thing is about Europe is we are beating some big teams. If we look into the league phase here, this Monaco game, we were pretty dominant. Tottenham was a close 1-2-1 defeat. I'm not too worried about that. And remember, we did get that win, if I can find it. There it is, at home to Barcelona, and a good performance as well. So there is promise there. It's maybe just a case of tweaking the tactic a little bit and just improving the team as much as we can. Now, Moukoko jumped into the Ziemhen role, and domestically, 20 goals in 28 matches. He stormed it, but he struggled a bit in the Champions League. In fact, it's a bit of a pattern because Zaniolo came back, 14 assists in the league, 0 in the Champions League. But Icardi continued, 33 years old, 44 goals, including 4 in the Champions League, so he's fine, he's solid. And someone who does deserve a bit more game time next season will be Brayton Diaz. He scored 13 goals largely off the bench. And Gomez, great success, 20 assists, 20. We just need to improve that Champions League form. So, big season 3 coming up. There's a few areas we need to improve. Wide midfield, Rafinha dropped off a cliff. Salah jumped in, but he's probably not Champions League level. And Moukoko, 1-year deal again, so we need to get another striker in. Despite the Champions League disappointment, the Season 2 stats show how good we were domestically again. Into Season 3, a big turnaround again in terms of transfers in and transfers out. Devastated to lose Mauro Icardi, but when Saudi come calling and offering nearly £700,000 a week, he was always going to end up there. Similar story for Wojciech Szczesny. You can't really turn down $3.5 million for a 36-year-old. And I took advantage of that situation by getting a Turkish homegrown player in Altay Bayındır in from Manchester United, Ozan Kabak, another Turkish player, in from Hoffenheim, and exploring the free transfer market, we took in Saelemaekers from Milan and Weston McKennie from Juve, and we've got an interesting role lined up for him. But what about that strike force? Because we need a brand new one. In a true Turkish signing style, we sign a veteran of European football in Alvaro Morata for 1 season hit from AC Milan, and he's going to play up front with Gabriel Barbosa. We got him for 15 million from Newcastle. Excited to see what that front two can do. Okay, I feel like we're slowly building something here. I'm happy with the defence. Gillet at right fullback is really good. Gomez is an assist machine, and the 2 centre-backs are super solid. We've got Altay in goal, who's a decent level, and those 2 central midfielders, Gabriel Sara, amazingly good attacking Segunde Volante, and Torreira is just a super solid defensive midfielder. Zaniolo, looking for a good season from him, and McKennie's going to jump into the Omega Luke special defensive winger. I'm expecting good things, because if you get a defensive midfielder like him, who wants to play a ball in midfielder, but you just slot him onto the right hand side, he's got all the attributes you need, specifically aggression, work rate, teamwork, to get up and down that right hand side. We've got an interesting front two of Morata and Barbosa. Say what you like about Morata, but he always seems to score. I think them 2 together might be a little secret weapon. Well then, Season 3 was interesting. That's Morata scoring against Real Madrid, twice by the way. As the progression of this team shows, as we thumped Real Madrid in the league phase 3-0, and then we went to Bayern and beat them as well. In fact, the league phase was pretty spectacular as we finished in the top 8, only losing the 2 matches, away to Atletico and at home to Barca. Another great league campaign as we take the title again, a bit tighter this time, just on goals scored, 100 of them, and only losing the 2 matches. And this season we had a Turkish Cup to our collection as well. All things looking rosy, but how about the Champions League? In the round of 16, our strike force of Barbosa and Morata gets us through past Nice, and that meant the quarter-finals and a tough draw with Liverpool. However, at home, Diaz scores 2 early goals to give us a 2-0 win, and it was off to Anfield to try and protect that 2-0 win. And Saelemaekers provided Gabby goal. I had high hopes, but unfortunately Mo Salah and Liverpool had different ideas. As despite our best run yet, we succumbed to Liverpool. Close. So much better. Really unlucky. Now you might notice in the team, Brayton Diaz is playing in an inverted winger. And that's because halfway through the season, Zaniolo had his clause triggered by Fulham. Now at that point, he was flying with 10 in 20. Losing him was a massive blow. It does mean we recouped 30 million more than we spent, but it just harmed the team going forward. But to be fair, McKennie in that defensive winger, he ends with 13 goals, 9 assists. That is definitely the right role for him. And Gomez again with another 21 assists, and most importantly, 11 assists in 11 matches in the Champions League. So going into season 4, we're running out of time now, but we definitely need to get another striker. It always seems to be the strikers, but Morata's leaving, so we need someone to go up front with Gabigol. The rest of the team I'm okay with. Probably just need a little replacement for Zaniolo to rotate with Diaz. But yet again, jaw-dropping stats from the team overall. Into season 4 pre-season, and this is where we cut loose a bit in terms of transfers in, spending some of that money that we've brought in. We need to have a keen eye on Turkish talent to help fill those registration rules domestically, and Cenk Özkakar comes in from Valencia. He cost a pretty penny at 45 million. Striker-wise, I've hedged my bets and got 2 in. First is Moise Kean for 15 million, and the next, another classic Turkish-style signing. Big Romelu Lukaku comes to finish his career in the Turkish leagues. Free transfer. I've also got a snip for Julian Duranville for 5 million and Nathan from Napoli for 10. Not forgetting to back up the squad with some Turkish players. Meaning for this season, we're looking pretty strong. Lukaku and Barbosa up front should have goals aplenty. I'm going to give Diaz a good run on the left-hand side because last season, he was pretty good, you know. It did cost me 20 million, but last season, 12 goals, 28 assists. Season before that, 9 in 35. Average rating's really solid. And he's got Gomez behind him who supplies the width and all the assists. So having Diaz who can play up front as an attacking inverted winger seems to make a lot of sense. And what does give me a bit of hope, now they're only friendlies, but they are big teams. Arsenal, Newcastle, Bayern, and we are competitive in all of them. And we've started the league like we always do. And just like that, our most dominating season yet in the league. We only lose one match all season long, scoring 107 and only conceding 21. And it could have been so much better if Lukaku hadn't damaged his tendon really badly for 2 months, because in the Champions League we qualified comfortably again in 14th, only losing the 2 matches, getting a really comfortable win over Dinamo, 3-0 in the knockout playoff round. Now this led to a quarter-final up against Tottenham. I was confident going in and we got 2 goals in the home leg. Unfortunately for us, so did Tottenham. So it was 2-2 going to the second leg. Now in the second leg, Lukaku did score. 1 of 17 shots we had. Match stats were all with us, but somehow Tottenham scored 5. I am still livid at that. How do you outplay a team and get beat 5-1? How? We're getting so close. We just can't get over that hump. That's the best we've played yet. And we just couldn't get past them. McKennie, defensive winger, 15 assists in the league, had a bit of an injury. Overall, 17 assists. Another good goal scoring season for Barbosa. He might just be on the decline though, so we need to keep an eye on that. Overall though, there's not a lot wrong. We've got 1 more season at this and we need some big signings to try and get over the line. The good news is we've got 40 million to do it with. Yet again, it's going to have to be a striker because Lukaku is great. We've got to sign him for another season, which we have done. It's his injury record that's killing us. If we can keep him on the pitch, we might have a chance. 1 season to go. We're getting closer. Another hectic transfer window with 57 million going out, largely due to us trying to hit those registration criterias, and 73 million coming in. I decided to cash in on Barbosa. It was a risk because he's still pretty decent, but Saudi money came in. I'm really trying to keep the Turkish flavour, and it's handy when someone like Hakan comes available. Free transfer from Inter. Despite his advancing age, he'll be a good player for us. And I brought Kerem back from Benfica, a bit of a snip at 27 million. Grimaldo comes in to rotate with Sergio Gomez. Got 2 really good attacking fullbacks now. And I've also signed João Felix on loan. It shows the stature of the club when we can bring him in. And the reason I brought him in? You guessed it, Lukaku got another injury. 3 months this time for a hip. I bugged out the squad with some more Turkish signings to help us hit those registrations. And we've started the season very well, a spotless pre-season, and we've beat rivals Trabzonspor 3-0 in the Super Cup pretty easily, and we've just completely smashed it down a 6-1 with a lot of the new players getting involved. But it's the last season for our attempt at the Champions League. Now thinking about this, when I took this challenge on, I probably should have took a team a bit lower to attack the Conference League or the Europa League. Season 5 comes to conclusion and it's our best season in the league again. We are just outrageous in the league campaign, losing only the 1 match, but this time we've scored our record 130 goals, only conceding 23. And if you look at it, we were top from day 1 to the end of the season. We also win the Turkish Cup, dismantling rivals Fenerbahce 4-0, But it's all about the Champions League, and our last attempt at it, we finished 14th place again, only losing 2 matches, away games at PSG and Roma, and some big wins at home, which led to a game against Barcelona in the playoff round. How unlucky is it to get them? But in the first game, we absolutely battered them. The game finishes 2-1, but looking at the match stats, it should have been far heavier. And as you probably saw, we were chasing a 4-0 deficit from the first game. So our campaign ends again in the knockouts. It's hard to know what to say because we've been so good. We've built such a good team domestically. Like, check out these trophy wins. That's our 5 seasons in charge of Galatasaray. We've won the league every season and we've won the treble 3 times and a double as well. We've killed it domestically. We just couldn't get over that hump, and it's really tough because as you get stronger, other teams get stronger. So you're always kind of chasing your tail to a degree. But we kept this tactic right the way through. The only changes were to this role. It went from wide playmaker to winger to defensive winger. And McKennie's the boy at that. He scored 20 goals from that position and 10 assists in the league, 22 and 12 overall. And on the other wing, you've got 17 assists coming from your inverted winger. I mean, it's a pretty good tactic, to be fair. The only changes we could possibly make is for away games in that Champions League is to drop this defensive line back a bit, play a bit more pragmatic. But as you've seen with the Barcelona game, creating that many chances against a team like Barca definitely created a really good team. But despite all those domestic trophies, the 5-year challenge is a big fat failure. Aye, 5 seasons to win a top European trophy, but used in a club from one of the less stronger leagues. Last time with Galatasaray, despite winning title after title and cup after cup, we ultimately came up short in our chase in Europe, as the big European powers got the better of us. This time we take a new approach as we go to Bulgaria. Our 5-year mission takes place with historic Bulgarian club Botev Plovdiv. Bulgarian football has been dominated for years by Ludogorets, and we are slotted in 4th position in terms of pre-season favourites at 25-1. And in Season 1, we will be straight into European competition, taking part in the Europa Conference League, which might be our best shot. Transfer-wise, there wasn't a lot going on. They'd already made a couple of signings before I got here in a loan signing and a free transfer. Free transfer is actually a pretty good player in Bradley Denier. He's going to be our left wing back. But we don't have a great deal of money, so for Season 1, I'm going to go transferless. And that brings us to the Season 1 tactic. As you can see, we've got a flat back 4. Gets a little bit funky higher up the pitch. I'm going to have a double pivot in central midfield areas, a defensive winger, which is fast becoming one of my favourite roles in FM, and supporting the front line of a solo striker on advanced forward. We have a shadow striker to break in, and an inside forward as well. And so you can get a grasp of the type of player we've got at this level. This is our key player, Anthony Uja, who's a 33-year-old Nigerian striker, and Vinny Tribule, who's a striker who I'm going to play as an inside forward. Okay, Bulgaria, a league I've never been before to manage, and it's one of those leagues which is pretty common around Europe where the league is classed as preliminary, so you then break into 2 halves, championship relegation, and we're going to hope to be in the championship group. The big problem is going to be Ludogorets, who just dominate Bulgarian football. In fact, as you can see here, since 2011-2012, they've won the league every season. But we're not looking to dethrone them as such. What we are looking to do is finish high enough in the league so we can qualify for Europe. And we start in the Europa Conference League qualifiers. It's a new setup in tactic style. Team instructions are pretty basic, but I'm interested to see how it does. I love a shadow striker, and if we can get that to work alongside the defensive winger, I'll be a happy man. Season 1, let's see how we do. Season 1 is wrapped, and in the league preliminary phase, we actually finished second to champions Ludogorets. That then broke into the championship phase, and as you can see, we weren't too far behind them, only 7 points, only losing the 4 matches. Ultimately though, Ludogorets continued their domination and won yet another league title. However, how did the rest go? Well, the good news is we did get a trophy. We won the season opener against Ludogorets in the Super Cup. Although we did get knocked out in the first round of the Bulgarian Cup. But what about the big one, the Europa League?
Are you ready?
We stormed through the second qualifying round 6-1 on aggregate. Then it's a really tough looking game against Austrians Rapid. So we're the underdogs in this one, but we did get the big win away from home. That was Georgi Nikolov scoring that one, and he is definitely one to watch. He's been playing as my defensive winger and finished the season with 17 goals in 31 matches. In the second leg, they did beat us 3-2, but we go through 4-3 on aggregate. Next up, it got even tougher. Trabzonspor from Turkey, one of the better teams in Turkish football, and we did take the lead. However, later on in the match, the clash shone through and we lose the home leg 3-1, which meant we had to get a result away from home and we went down early. But this team's got a lot of heart and we did fight back really well. And at one stage, I thought we were going to do it. In the end though, Trabzonspor had a little bit too much for us. After an epic confrontation, it finished 4-4 and we get knocked out in the fourth qualifying round 7-5. So honestly, making no transfers and just trying to find out about the team, we performed way better than I thought we were going to. Way better. And as you can see from the team chemistry, they seem to enjoy the tactic. So I'm going to keep it for next season, but we've got some serious upgrading to do in the team. With a few key players out of contract and some aging players as well. Popov, a legend, but he's now 37. There's quite a bit of restructuring we need to do going into season 2. And thankfully the good performance in Europe gave us a little bit of a budget. Season 2 with Botev is about to begin then. As expected, quite a lot of players left us, and we brought in £350,000 worth of talent. I actually spent money, £300,000 on Diego Marino, a fullback from Osasuna. Korsanovis comes in from Atalanta for free, and Untim from French football to play in centre-back. And I want to keep the Bulgarian flavour, so I did bring a few Bulgarian players in, alongside promoting some players to jump into the team, such as Nikola Iliev. He's going to be a big player in the shadow striker role. At one point, he was at Inter Milan. And we're going to move Vinny Tribule to striker to be the main man up front. So only a few transfers in, and interestingly, the registration rules in Bulgaria are pretty relaxed. You can see you've got maximum of 20 non-EU players. So if you're starting to save, this is a pretty cool place to come because you can load that team up. But I'm keeping it real here, and I've only spent 350,000, which means we still do have 300,000 left, but the wage budget has gone. So this squad is probably going to be the one that has to get us through this season. Now, last season's finish did mean that we have qualified for the Conference League. We've got a really tough start straight away against Adana from Turkey. But this is a good challenge. Second place last season, but it's all about Europe as well. But we do need a good performance in the league as well. So season 2 comes to a close and the team chemistry absolutely perfect, which should mean a good season. And it did mean a good season as Botev finally stopped Ludogorets' domination and we take down the Bulgarian League Championship. And that was a comeback after finishing second in the prelim phase. And we did that by winning our last 5 matches in the championship, including beating Ludogorets to give Botev their first league title since 1967. And if we go back to that league table, you can see we scored 81 times and only conceding 28. It's safe to say this tactic has been a great success in Bulgaria. But we're here for the European trophy, right? And our first game against Adana, Iliev, straight off the mark. The front two of the shadow striker and advanced forward Tribule meant a stunning 3-0 away victory, which sent us through 6-2 into the next match against Swiss side St. Gallen, drawing the first leg 2-2, and despite our absolute domination in the second leg, we somehow lost 3-0 and we're out 5-2 in the third qualifying round. So that's a tough one, that, because the Conference League is probably our best chance and we go out in the qualifying round 2 seasons in a row. The team's playing great, but we've kind of become victims of our own success here. Because by winning the Bulgarian title for the first time since 1967, that is going to put us into the Champions League. And although I do like my squad, you can't imagine that some of these players going up against the likes of Haaland and Mbappe, it's not going to be pretty. Saying that though, there was some stunning new performances like Iliev. It seems to have resurrected his career. Remember, he was at Inter Milan, they saw something in him, but look at his attributes rising and he did bag 18 goals last season. And I love this man on the right wing. He's not the ideal winger, but I've kind of forced him in there. He wants to play up front. He's a big, aggressive 6'3", and he's been doing really well. And that new signing at right back, Marino, signed from Osasuna's B team, had a cracking season with 12 assists, and now teams like Leeds are looking at him. So I haven't defined players from unexpected sources to try and build this team, but next season in the Champions League. But let's not downplay it. Stopping the domination of Ludogorets was a pretty damn good season. Into season 3, loads of players left us, mostly on free transfers, and we bulked the squad up where we could. But the main heartbeat of the team was pretty much exactly the same as last season. The only player that will come in is Matteo Ricci, who comes in from Sampdoria. That's the kind of level of players we can attract at the minute. But I'm hopeful with the front two of Iliev and Tribule we might be okay. Because last season Vinny did bag 24 goals and he started this season pretty well as well. And we continue to build the team around our Bulgarian central midfielder Yanis Karabelov. And we are fortunate we've had a good goalkeeper from day one in Hans Christian Bernat. So the season is underway. Got to keep the same tactic. It works well with the clutch of Bulgarians we've got in the team in Iliev, Nikolov and Karabelov. In the league, we've started well. Randomly, we're conceding more goals this season for some reason, but we have scored 16 and we do sit top of the table. But it's all about Europe. It's another interesting season, and with one game to go in the league campaign, we are currently second to Ludogorets. But as you can see, our last game of the season is at Ludogorets. If we beat them, we are champions. And that would take us back into the Champions League next season. And let's talk about this season's Champions League, where we qualified in the first round by smashing Maribor 7-1, which sent us into the next round to play Hammarby, and we battered them again. Yet another qualifying match, this time against Maccabi Tel Aviv and Iliev with a hat-trick from Shadow Striker. That sent us through 6-2 on aggregate, which meant we had one more match to get through to get to the league phase of the Champions League, and it was against Bosnian Sarajevo. And we turned a first leg deficit around to qualify 5-3. We are actually in the Champions League proper. Unfortunately though, that was the highlight of our European campaign, as we finished 35th out of 36 teams, losing 8 out of 8. Lowlights including getting beat by Porto 8-2, Ajax 6-0, and another 6 against Napoli. And this is where having 35-year-old Estonian centre-back Tam up against Cavadonna and Azimhen is just unfair. On the positive side, we put up a better fight against Milan, and we did score a legendary goal against Man City as Iliev scored in a 3-1 defeat. So look, an up and down Champions League campaign, it's fair to say. The start of it, beautiful. Got into the league phase, and that is the big problem with this. If we're in the Champions League, we've basically got no chance. And that brings me to the next match, because if we beat Ludogorets, we are champions, which means we've got to do that again. Temptation to throw the game and finish second on purpose was very real, but we did put our first choice team out and we did ultimately come up short to a penalty, so we won't be in the Champions League again. It does mean Ludogorets get their title back, but we can deal with that later. Because the good news is, thanks to the Champions League campaign, although it was brutal, it gave us loads of money, which meant the club got quite generous and gave me a 6 million transfer budget. With the money burning a hole in my pocket, I didn't go too crazy though. First in came Ilcic from Bologna, looks a snip at 800,000. 300,000 was spent on striker Pablo Rodriguez from Lecce. Holding midfielder Elliot Matzeo came in from Monaco. Bulgarian Andrean Kraev. I love the fact he's Bulgarian, he's coming back to his home country and he can literally play anywhere, right down the middle. He's going to be a holding midfielder. In from Marseille's Bamo Maite, an Ivorian centre-back, alongside the free transfer signing of Harrison Marcelin. More free transfers from Adam Montgomery from Celtic and Alan Virginius from Lille. This meant for Season 4 we had a pretty stacked squad for our level. I'd also changed the tactic up a little bit by dropping one of the wingers back, so we've got double defensive wingers now. But this season it's back in the Europa League, and thankfully we've got through the qualifiers pretty easily. Decided to prioritise Europe this season by having a separate team for domestic campaign and a European team as well, which was all about better players. Still, it wasn't a total disaster in the league as we finished second yet again to Ludogorets, but this time we also got ourselves a Bulgarian Cup. So that win kept the fans happy, but what about Europe? Second qualifying round was AEK Athens. I thought it was going to be tough, it ended up 12-1. And then we turned it around against Belgium's side Antwerp and qualified for the league phase. The tweak to the tactics seemed to have worked because in the league phase we were outstanding, including this 8-0 win. 3-0 over Standard, and probably our best result yet, drawing 2-2 with Manchester United. Overall, the league phase was a great success and shows the progression of the club as we finished in 11th, only losing one match, that was to Eintracht Frankfurt, but we did score 26 times. This meant we made the knockouts, and Iliev has had the season of his life. He rifles in a double in the second leg to take us through 6-0, and this season he's bagged 44 goals in all competitions from Shadow Striker. Unfortunately for us, the next round in the last 16, we drew Eintracht Frankfurt, the team that batters in the league phase. And it didn't look good. By half time we were already 2-0 down, and that was at home. But we came storming back, and in the first leg we actually took a 3-2 lead to Frankfurt. Knowing this was going to be tough, I dropped the counter press and just went counter. But again, we went 2-0 down early on. But what a bunch we've got here, as the front two, Rodriguez and Iliev, got us back into it. And in injury time, this Rodriguez goal seals the deal, 4-7 on aggregate. Probably the greatest result in recent Plovdiv history. We've got them into the quarterfinals now, but it's another giant task against Fiorentina. First leg, despite goals from Iliev and Nikolov, our Bulgarian combination, we go down 3-2. But as usual, we fought back, and this Karabelov goal took us to extra time. A corner from Fiorentina meant we heartbreakingly go out at the quarterfinal stage, but what an effort. Oh yeah, that was some effort from the boys. I thought we were going to do it. Quarterfinals is the best we've done yet, but you can see the progression, and this little tweak on the tactic by literally dropping this fella back to defensive winger has done the trick. Front two, great success. Yet again, we found another sneaky little talent. 300,000 Rodriguez cost us from Lecce. He scores 39 overall, but more importantly, 17 goals in 14 in the Europa League. The boys are talent. So it's going to be pretty tough to improve this team, but I'm hoping that little run will help us in regards to transfer budget. At the minute, it's saying 8 million, which would be very handy indeed. But the good news is, by using that technique of resting players in the league, it does mean we're in the Europa League next season. So for our final attempt at this, at least it'll be the Europa League and not the Champions League. But I'm going to look at ways to improve this team now, but I am getting attached to them. Very, very good they are. It's time for our final season, and I went for quality over quantity this time. 500,000 for Philip Billing from Bournemouth. Got a cracking free transfer from Geladi from Sampdoria to play centre-back. Another free transfer in Jordan Carrillo. He's going to play shadow striker and give Iliev a rest. And our final free transfer has Hwang Hee-chan from Wolves. Now, he can play up front, but I think with his mentals down there, he might be a good option as a defensive winger. And just as the season was getting going, Espanyol stole Bernat from me in goals. So I went to Southampton and bought Gavin Bazunu for 3.8 million. He's an upgrade. The bad news was Pablo Rodriguez damaged his cruciate ligaments and missed most of the season, which will probably mean a more advanced role for Iliev with Carrillo behind him. Before his injury, Rodriguez scored a hat-trick in a 6-0 win against Ludogorets in the Super Cup. And the league campaign was absolutely outstanding. We won our second Bulgarian Cup as well. And late in the season, Pablo came back from his injury, scored this equaliser away at Ludogorets, and that gave us our second Bulgarian title, beating the mighty Ludogorets to it, scoring 101 times, only conceding 27. So that slight change to the tactic has done the business in the league. We've got our league title back, we've won a double, a treble with a Super Cup, and Iliev, what a boy he is. He's now wanted by some top clubs, but another booming season, 24 and 22 in the league, so you can see we rested him quite a lot. Pablo's only just came back, but he's still bagged 12 in 16. Another good player is Carrillo. He came in as a backup, but he's done his job, 19 goals. And the core of that team is still Bulgarian with the two midfield lads, the right winger and Iliev. Lovely. Now, Europa League campaign. Strap in.
Are you ready?
I was worried when we drew Shakhtar Donetsk in the qualifying round, but I shouldn't have been as we beat them 6-2 on an aggregate. The league phase really started going when we played Sporting at home and absolutely drilled them 5-0. That was a battering against one of the top teams in the competition. We followed that up by beating Basel 4-1 away.
Atalanta!
And our best performance since we joined the club away at Atalanta from Serie A. A majestic 3-0 win in which Atalanta had one shot. That means, unbelievably, we qualify out of the league phase in second, winning 7 out of 8, only conceding 5 times. Now it's getting really tough. Round of 16, Valencia. First leg, we lose 3-2. This was so tough, but a 93rd minute Ilčić goal from a corner sent us to penalties. Cabor has to score this. Bazunu saves, and then day one, Dinoja has a chance to put us through, and does. But then the toughest quarter-final possible, Newcastle United. And just take a look at that starting 11. We had to play counter and set pieces, but outrageously, at St James's Park, we got a 2-0 win. In the home leg, I shut up shop playing defensively. 0-0, we're through to the semis. It continues to be tough as we got French club Lille in the semi-final. Not the greatest result at home, 2-2. In a massively tight game away from home. There was one goal that we needed. Hwang down the left, whips it in, and there's our boy Yanis. He's been there since we started, and his goal sends Botev into the Europa League final. And wouldn't you know it, it's against Atalanta. mean, I'm floored. A stunning season ends with us winning a quadruple. These boys have made themselves absolute legends. One of the most enjoyable short-term saves I've ever done. I was dying to put this on a video so you could all see it. That was outrageous. I think what I mostly loved about this is we're signing players that I have not seen before in the game or used before, such as Rodriguez here from Lecce, Spaniard, and then Iliev, who I've used in prior FMs. We've just reborn him. He's reborn now. His value is a joke at 2.3 to 5.2. He's worth 10 times that. He just keeps scoring goals. All these goals here are from a shadow striker position. And the other thing I like is we've kept plenty of Bulgarian talent involved as well. Karabailov's been there since the start, as has Nikolov and Iliev. Kraev we brought in. Both tactics we used were really good. This was the one that got us over the line, but the other tactic also got us the Bulgarian title as well. This one just seemed better fitted to Europe, and now in Europe, in them tough games, specifically against Frankfurt and Newcastle, I dropped the counter press to counter, and the defensive line dropped back a bit as well. You can see it's higher defensive line where it used to be much higher. What can I say about these boys? They've done it. They've won the Europa League. We're attempting to win a European trophy with non-elite league teams. We've been to Turkey and Bulgaria, and today we go to Sweden. Our mission this time takes place in Stockholm with AIK, Allmänna Idrottsklubben. How did I do? This is one of the biggest clubs in Sweden with a stunning stadium, great facilities, and the club where Alexander Isak started his career. Despite the great infrastructure, they haven't won a league title now since 2018, and no European trophy. And as we look to start the season, we are down in 4th place behind Giants Malmo, who dominate, as you can see, by the Media Dream 11. And this is going to be a little bit different for Season 1 because the only competition we're going to have is the league campaign, because we are starting this journey on the 15th of March 2023. So the European competitions for this year have already taken place. What that does mean is that we can give our all to the league campaign to make sure we're getting to Europe for next season. And when we get to here in July, that's when the other leagues will start their campaigns, so the transfers will really kick off. Speaking of transfers, they've already done some business, and I've only brought 2 players in, and I'll tell you who they are in a minute. Because first of all, I want to talk about the squad, and it looks like we're going to go down the physical, old school approach. Some of the players already at the club, such as these 2 centre-backs, Milosevic and Isherwood, are big, strong players. Add to that 6-foot striker John Guidetti, you can see the squad as an overall has a higher than average physical rating. So we're going to jump into that. We're going to look to build a physically strong squad with high work rate and teamwork. So we lent into that with our first signing, the free transfer of Jonas Knudsen, a left back who is over 6 foot with good strength, aggression and work rate. And the same story with our other signing, a pacey right back with 15 for acceleration and 14 pace and really good work rate and teamwork. And despite having a decent transfer budget, those are the only 2 signings I'm going to make first season. And that brings us to the first tactic we're going to use with AIK, and we're going old school 4-4-2. A flat back 4 with 2 strong centre backs and reasonably attacking full backs. In front of them, 2 solid midfielders in a deep line playmaker and a normal central midfielder, defensive winger one side, attacking winger the other, and up front, target man, advance forward combination. To see the type of standard we are at, this is our key player, Martin Ellinson. The Norwegian can play anywhere in the midfield, or even centre back, or even at a push at full back. But that is the sort of level we're currently at. There are other players of a similar standard, all around the attribute mark of between 11 and 14. So last time in Bulgaria, that was new to me. Well, this is new to me, starting a league campaign in mid-March 2023, effectively going back in time. But it does mean we can solely focus on this. Now, the Cup does start, but it starts near the end of the season and goes into the next year. As far as the tactic goes, 4-4-2, I'm looking forward to going old school 4-4-2. I just imagine all those Swedish teams hard-working, in your face, whipping balls into Zlatan and Guidetti. He's a player who had so much promise when he was younger. He started off at Man City after they took him early from Swedish football, but he never really got going, did he? So we're going to hope to resurrect his career. But it's a really good, hard-working team with no real player standout, so I'm going to try and keep it that way throughout this journey, concentrating on teamwork, old school tactics. Let's see how we do, but it's time for season 1, and let's hope we can get back into Europe straight away. Well then, season 1 is wrapped, and it went a little better than even I expected. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but we have guided AIK to their first league title since 2018, only losing 5 matches. And remember what I said about the cup? Well, we are through that, but our next match is sometime in the future. So a stomping season, and the old school approach of wing play to Guidetti worked a treat. We wanted to resurrect his career, and we've done just that as he scores 25 goals in 28 matches. So we win the league, and other than Guidetti, who was top of the goals and average rating charts, we have no real standouts. The clean sheets were good from the goalkeeper because we are defensively solid, but if you look at the average ratings, there's a list there. We've not exactly dominated, are we? We've got 3 in the top 20, and it's a similar story in the assists league table, so no massive individual performances. It was more about the team collective, so our focus on building a strong team based on work rate and physicality has seemed to pay off. And winning both matches against Malmo was surely welcomed by the fans as well. So an interesting season. We actually did it by conceding less than a goal a game and scoring nearly 2 a match. Not bulldozing teams, as you can see from the average ratings down there, nothing massively spectacular other than Guidetti. As we start planning for next season, we can see we've got an absolute host of players about to be out of contract. I make it 10 or 12. We do have a great under-19s team, but for next season it's probably a little bit early. So we better do some prep, because by winning this league title, we've sent ourselves into the Champions League. With a big campaign ahead for season 2, we actually spent a little bit of money, £2 million. First in was Brazilian veteran Patrick. He's got a great record in Japanese football. I think he'll do okay over here. And also the player in striker is William Osula. I wanted to keep the Scandinavian vibe going, so he's from Denmark, but he's in from Newcastle on loan. Got ourselves a new goalkeeper in Noel Tornqvist. He's 6'6". He's an absolute giant of a man. It cost me £1 million. Another Swedish player coming in is Yaya Kalea. He's going to play as our attacking left fullback. A couple more giant Swedish players did join us as well. Adolfsson at 6'6". We're going to keep the same tactics, because why not? Why would you change it? The only thing that we will change is there'll be a bit more rotation. So we've got Guidetti, who plays a target forward, who will rotate with Patrick as well. This is where things get a bit tricky, because we've got half of last season to finish off this season. For example, the cup didn't go to plan. So we started this cup competition what feels like last season, but we finish it this season, and Malmo beat us despite us absolutely battering them. But from this point, we can focus solely on the league campaign, because our European exploits that we earned last season don't come into play this season until August, if that makes sense.
What?
So it's another interesting challenge, because it's hard enough keeping track of what's going on in the competitions. Now we're out of the cup, but we'll be back in that in November. But for now, we can concentrate on the league till November before the Europe comes in August. Season 2 comes to a close, and you can see I have made room in the squad because it's time to upgrade it. So what did happen this season? This time in the league we fall just short despite losing less matches and gaining more points than last season. Out of nowhere, BK Häcken took the title. Now the positives will mean that next season we won't be in the Champions League, so we must have a better chance. Speaking of the Champions League, our campaign this season saw us start away at Ferencváros before completing the job at home 4-0. This led to the third qualifying round against Slovan Bratislava with a disappointing draw at home. We got a penalty in the away leg to take the tie. Ellinson missed, it goes to extra time. And in extra time, this corner from Bratislava was enough to knock us out. Believe it or not, that's not a bad thing, because that chucked us into the Europa League, a competition we've got a better chance at, and we stormed through the playoff round there. And that put us in the league phase, where interestingly we played Bratislava again and this time beat them. But a string of disappointing results against some big teams currently have us sat down in 26th. We're just on the brink of qualifying with 2 games to go. And if you look at our schedule, we finished our league campaign in November, but we've still got to play the Europa League phase in this same period, so we've got to have friendlies to keep our fitness up. It's a mad thing you've got to do when you play Scandinavian football. And you'll also notice the gaps in the team are not all by choice, because some players have left because they've been out of contract, such as Patrick. Patrick is about to leave us. He's joining Cortiba in January, despite having a great time for us. He scored 9 in 23. He's been a right handful, but he, along with others, are about to leave, so I need to do some recruitment to fill some of these gaps to help us with this campaign in Europe. Now, saying that, we do have some standouts who will remain with us. Pitas, for example, he's from Cyprus. proper good striker. I mean, his value's shot up to 1.4 to 2.2 million, and his overall record for us is 29 and 54 in the league. So Latros will be with us throughout, I think. He's at a good age at 29, and he's an assist machine. He's already got 9 assists this season. Isherwood at centre-back, Man Mountain will stay with us. And the good news is, one of our signings, Calais, the left-back, looks like a proper good prospect. So we're going to stick with the 4-4-2. We now go to Season 3 for the domestic campaign to play Season 2's European campaign rest of. Season 3-ish begins with 4 out and 4 in. I'm trying desperately to cover that target forward slot, and Bayo comes in from Udinese for 400,000. But I think the starting man will be this man, Youssef Arabi, the Swedish youngster Hammarby, but he came from Juventus. And the story here is he turned down a move to us, went to Juve, who then immediately loaned him to us. Also coming in is a giant centre-back, Jakob Persson, 6'4", costing just 400,000. We stubbornly stick with the 4-4-2, and then there's a couple of new players in there. One is Victor Corneliussen. He's came through our youth ranks, and he's straight in the team even at 16 years old. And there's a few more coming through as well. Jonas Frisch, he's going to go on the bench as a backup striker. Next season, he'll be in the team. The wide areas are looking good, and day one of Bersan Salina is the more attacking winger in the team on the left-hand side. So it's officially pre-season for us, but we have still had a couple of matches in the Europa League, and they haven't gone great. We got a really good draw against Sociedad, and then this game against Celtic, we had to win to progress. We lost that, but Celtic are flying. They won 7 out of 8, so they go through top, and we finished down in 27th, so do not progress from Europe. So officially, our Season 2 European campaign ends in failure. But don't forget, thanks to our last season's league performance, there it is, we do qualify for Europe, and it's not the Champions League, so we should have a better chance. So the competition screen looks kind of mad, but bear in mind that the Champions League and Europa League sections are from last season. So at the minute, the 4-4-2 has 7 Swedish players who will be starting, which is kind of cool. But it's all about Europe, and we'll get to that after this domestic campaign. Season 3 comes to conclusion, Malmo back on top, and we finish second for the second successive season, despite losing less matches. But again, I'm not too angry about it, because it does mean we avoid the Champions League, and we had a really good season. A good season that did include more silverware as we win the Swedish Cup. So back in January, we started with the Europa League, and we finished with the Europa League as well. We strolled through the qualifying round against Dunstreda 6-0. This penalty from Ellinson got us through the next round, but that led to a scary looking tie against Monaco. We played really well in the home leg, and we got a 3-2 win thanks to this goal late on. Arabi's been great with 22 goals this season. Then it was the away game against Monaco, which I was worried about, but we pulled off our best performance since we've been at the club, beating Giants Monaco 2-0. That sent us through to the main league phase once again, and we started it well, beating Groningen and then absolutely smashing Braga. And then we pull off another shocker as Pitas scores away at Galatasaray, beating them 2-1. Which means after 4 games of league phase, what are we doing up there? We are nestled in at 5th position in the Europa League. So this team with the 4-4-2 are absolutely flying, and rotating in the league has really helped. But the league's over now, and all we have now is various games in the Europa League with lots of big gaps. And the other issue we're going to have is some players are going to leave us. They're going to be out of contract in a month's time, and Arabi, his loan deal is going to expire as well. This makes Scandinavian saves really tricky to navigate. So now I need to go and recruit for the domestic campaign for next season and for the rest of this campaign's Europa League as we go into season 4 or 3? 4? Season 4 started with the continued European push. First up was a tough beating at Chelsea and another defeat at home to Anderlecht. This meant we did qualify for the Europa League, but we didn't get that top 8 spot. Transfer wise, we shipped out a load of fringe players and only brought a couple of players in. It's a target forward spot we're trying to fill yet again, and in comes Emil Rees on a free transfer. And I spent 600,000 on Ollie McBurney, mostly because he won't be cup tied for Europe. He slots into the target forward role alongside Pitas. The actual 4-4-2 looks pretty strong. And shout out to Cornelius, who's now 17. Last season played 19 matches. He's progressing really well. Overall though, the squad is looking a little bit light for the amount of competitions we're in. I'd expect some more of these talents to jump into the first team squad soon. In the knockout rounds, we drew Groningen. We lost the first leg, but in the second leg, we absolutely battered them. But then we get Frankfurt in the last 16. That's tough. First leg, we battled to a really good 3-3 draw. And in the second leg, we shocked everybody by taking an early lead. In fact, there was only 17 minutes on the clock when we went 2-0 up. Frankfurt came right back at us. I was trying everything to hold them at bay. They did get one back, and we held out to the 85th minute, and they scored again. Trying everything to hold on. It's injury time, the 93rd minute. And Mega, what a striker he is. Heartbreakingly, we got 6-5 to Frankfurt. Not to worry though, because we did get to the Swedish Cup final against Hammarby. Oh. Stick the knife in. We somehow managed to lose that. This season has not gone great, has it?
Hey yo!
But wait, the domestic league campaign was absolutely exceptional as we take the league title, going invincible. An absolutely stunning season in which we win 25 out of the 30 matches, don't lose a match. I mean, talk about mixed emotions. We did really well in Europe, got knocked out at that stage, cup final defeat, but that league campaign is unreal. It's safe to say that 442 absolutely loves domestic league football in Sweden. That's my first invincible for God knows how long. Now, eyebrows might have been raised when we bought Ollie McBurney, but he's been quality for us. He's not going to be prolific, but in that target forward role, he does all the work, so the guys up front with him can do the goal scoring. And a good thing has been the progress of our youngster. Remember, he's only 19 now, but look at his goals. Goals per game ratio is ridiculous. He scored 12 times in 6 starts in the league, 14 overall. In fact, he was our top scorer. Now, if you look at the season overall, you can see how well it went, and we've just entered the Conference League as well. We cruised through the qualifiers there, you can see, and we're into the league phase, and we've started it out of this world. This win, 5-0, has sent us second just behind Monaco. 3 wins out of 3 so far, but we're in that tricky spot where it's at the end of our domestic league season, so I'm hoping we can keep the momentum up. Now, because of our good form and European exploits, the overall balance of the club's really, really healthy. And to give us a boost halfway through the season, in July time, we'd arranged some free transfer signings from European clubs. Giant striker Andrej Ilic, Serbian, comes in. He's already started really well, with 7 goals in 9 starts. We've got another option in midfield with Zaraga from Udinese, and a really good pickup on a free. Covers the entire left-hand side. Oliver Deman, Belgian international, comes in from Werder Bremen. So as we come back for season 5-ish, we'll be in seasons 4 Europa Conference League, and at the minute it's looking pretty promising. It's time for our final season, and we had more transfers out than in. We lost young youth prospect Ayari to Udinese for 4 million. Only 2 signings came in. One was a backup keeper in Jerome Pryor, and the next was Giuliano Simeone for 2 million from Atletico Madrid. We're going to our final season, maintaining the 4-4-2. The only thing I've changed now and again is changing the target forward to a pressing forward in some matches, but not often. Conference League wise, last season we finished off with a 3-0 win over Flora and a 2-2 draw at Trabzonspor. This meant we did qualify in the top 8, undefeated as well. The draw was kind to us as we smashed Aris in the round of 16, and in the quarterfinal we drew Lask with a hat-trick from our youngster, homegrown Frege. That 4-2 win was enough to send us through. What I've enjoyed most about this save is we've kept the heartbeat of the team pretty much the same since day one. There's a load of players from day one, including Corneliussen and Frey, who are homegrown talents. So we've made it all the way through to the semi-finals of the Conference League. But then, my worst fears were realised. Are you kidding?
Oh shit, here we go again.
New viewers to this channel, you may not realise what this means, but take a look at this video and then you'll get it. Aston Villa in the semi-finals. So an outstanding result with our backs against the wall. We get a 2-2 draw at Villa Park. Back to Stockholm, the dream start after 20 minutes. Deep cross, man mountain, bang, 1-0. Took until the 46th minute, but Villa did equalise. Our boys are trying everything to stay in this. How many times have I seen that this year in FM25? So Aston Villa ruin it again. I mean, we fail this challenge. But to make myself feel better, I played the rest of the domestic season out. We beat Malmo in the Cup 2-1. And we take down the league title again. Which means domestically we had a pretty good time. Nabbing 5 trophies in 5 seasons. But ultimately, the ghost of Aston Villa costs us again. It's safe to say our challenge to win a European trophy with a non-elite league team has been a bit up and down. Success in Bulgaria, but close calls in Turkey and Sweden. The next stage in our journey, we're off to Czechia, FC Victoria Pilsen. Now, this is one of the biggest teams in Czechia, and they've got a rich background, especially recently. They've got 6 league titles since 2011, so they've been absolutely flying. Only 1 cup and no success in Europe. With season 1 on the horizon, there's 2 teams above us, both Prague teams, Slavia and Sparta, and we're sitting down in 3rd position. But I do have a bit of hope because the Media Dream 11 is full of our players. And that's a good thing because in season 1, arguably could be our best chance of a trophy because we are in the Conference League, thanks to last season's league performance. And those fixtures come into play pretty much straight away after pre-season with the qualifiers, and then it's a league campaign which is pretty normal. Up until a point, because after you've played the league matches, it then breaks into another of those championship groups. Transfer-wise, they haven't made any moves yet. We're going to do a couple of moves, because the squad is pretty small looking at it, starting off. There are some players you will have heard of, Matija Vidra, who has spent a lot of time in various levels of English football. There also looks to be some real quality. Lucas Kalvac in central midfield and centre-back Markovic look high-quality players. I can also see the goalkeeper staying with us throughout the journey. But overall, the squad's really good, and I really want us to dominate the league. Probably in a couple of years' time, some of the players will get even better. But I did want to give us some extra quality up front for season 1. And that led me to signing legendary striker Bas Dost. At one time when he was at Sporting, one of the most feared strikers in Europe, he's going to be a free transfer to play in that poacher role. And I pushed the boat out a bit, signing Paul Onuachu on loan from Southampton. We can't afford him, but for a 1-season hit as a target forward, hell yeah. And one for the future, 1 million overall will be Karol Pozdezny, but I've sent him out on loan for season 1. And just more experience on a free transfer in Cedric Brunner for right back. This brings us to season 1's tactic, and your eyes don't deceive you, that is what I'm going for. We've got a flat 5 at the back. I just want to have a little explore in season 1. I'm going to chuck in a libero. Shemelka can definitely do that role. He's good on the ball. So when we've got the ball, he moves forward into the defensive midfield zone. Speaking of defensive midfield, just that one player in Kalvac. He's elite. He's going to have to work hard because I really wanted 2 up front with 2 supporting players. So we've got Jerka and Vidra as inside forwards. And then we've got Big Paul and Dost. That is a beast of a front line. No, it looks a bit daft, doesn't it? But I just want to try something. Look, we're late in the FM cycle, so why the hell not? And I'm not exactly floating in trophies at the minute, am I? So I'm excited about it, especially with this guy. He can just pop into there, and he's going to hold his position while Kalvac storms forward. The plan is to absolutely assault the league and see what we can do. Get crosses into the box, into them boys up front. I've got floated crosses on because Onuachu is 6'23" and Dost is not a small lad either at 6'14". So if they don't win the first balls, then Vidra and Jerka can buzz around them, get the second balls. And yes, I'm feeling a bit smug when you look at the early part of the season. As you can see, we've absolutely stormed it, including the Conference League where we're through into the league stage, which is about to start. And we're currently sat 2nd in the league, undefeated. So let's see what it can do. So season 1 is wrapped and it ends with a trophy and a classic goal. The floated cross and 2 headers leads to a 3-2 win in the cup final. And unbelievably, we actually take down the league title as well for a double. And this was after finishing 2nd in the league stage. A key man in all of this was the libero Jamelka. He actually clocked in 12 assists from that libero position. As far as the Conference League goes, first season it was the old school approach and we finished top of our group. That led us into the round of 16 where Copenhagen absolutely battered us, but we're not exactly set up for away matches, and at home we turned it on its head. 5-1, go through 6-5. But then reality hit because we drew Fiorentina in the quarter-final. The legendary Bas Dost will retire at the end of the season, but he did give us the lead. Unfortunately, that mistake led Moise Keane to equalise. The first leg ends 2-1, and away from home they beat us 2-0. Despite being down to 10 men, they just had too much for us. So domestically, a dream season, probably too good, because you know what happens when you win the league. We're then in the Champions League next season, but 2 trophies, playing that, I think that's not bad. Onuachu ends with 28 goals. He's going to be hard to replace. We cannot afford 15 million. But already at the club is literally his mini version of himself. He's also Nigerian, Rafu Duru Sinmi. Played a bit this season, scored 8. He's going to start next season. I've got high hopes for him. But overall, there's quite a bit of work to do for the squad. I'm kind of tempted to keep the same tactic. We just need to maybe get an away version for those tougher European nights. But in the league... So there was a bit of rebuilding to do this off-season, and it got a bit worse because in the transfers out, Villarreal stole our best player, Lucas Calvach, from Segunde Volante for 4.5 million. But we managed to bring a good clutch of players in. To hopefully replace him will be Filip Souček, free transfer from rivals Slovako. Yanis Ramani comes in, another free transfer, this time from Malaga. Really good attacking fullback from Udinese for just £100,000. And we actually spent money, 1.5 million on Ladislav Almasi from our rivals Banik Ostrava. He looks a really good target forward at 6'6". We're going in with the same tactic for the domestic campaign. A few little tweaks to the player instructions, and then when we're away from home in those tough matches, we're just going to drop back a little bit and drop back the mentality. So, just like last season, we've started really well. We're in the Champions League qualifying path. We've dismantled Sarajevo 7-1 and 2-1, and we're about to go to a really tough one against Dinamo. Now, if we get beaten that, we might drop down to the Europa League. That is kind of tempting, because let's be real, we're not going to win the Champions League. Do we throw it? The end of season 2, and we did get through that qualifying campaign. That led us into the Champions League proper, and we got a really respectable draw away at Bilbao, but reality soon hit with a tough defeat away at Galatasaray, away at Tottenham, and battered by Man City after we went down to 9 men after 15 minutes. I mean battered. However, we did manage to claw some respectability back, and this is a win against Shakhtar, and our best performance in Europe yet, battering Olympiacos. And it was good to see the formation standing up in the Champions League. Ultimately though, we could not qualify for the next round of the Champions League, finishing 29th, but at least we didn't disgrace ourselves. Domestically, we claimed our second successive cup, but this time in the league, Slavia Prague had too much for us as they clocked a massive 94 points and we finished second. So interesting season, bit of a rude awakening going into the Champions League proper, some brutal results in there, but there were some standout performances. The boy we bought, the 6'6" striker, 91 kg, 26 goals overall, and in the Champions League he scored 10 in 12. What a signing. And our mini Paul Onuachu did his job as well with 30 goals all season, 7 in the Champions League. I've still got a lot of the original players in there, and I definitely need to keep 2 up front next season. We probably need to tweak it a bit to try and get some sort of European success. We know that does well in the league. It's battering the first season, domestically as well. I need to come up with something new for season 3. The Champions League campaign might have been tough, but it did give us a good amount of money in the club coffers. So we had a good amount of money to spend, but we went for quality over quantity in the pre-season. First signing in is young international Martin Vitek. It's one of those ones where they buy him off our rival Sparta Prague, immediately loan him to us, and we can sign him straight after. He's a 6'4" centre-back, but I've got eyes on him playing a new cute role in central defensive midfield. More on that shortly. Brazilian Lincoln comes in on a free transfer. I've only managed to get him on a 1-year deal. Same with Alexandra Mende, another striker. I wanted more homegrown players in the squad, so David Pech comes in. He's come from Lazio via Slavia Prague. And Ukrainian left-back Vasily Kravets comes in as well. That leads us to this season's tactic. Your eyes don't deceive you yet again. We're getting funky with a half-back who will drop in. I'm asking this centre-back to stay wider when we've got the ball, which will allow my wing-back to get really attacking and fly up that pitch. The midfielder has a bit more company this time. It's nearly a 4-2-4, but it's a bit more aggressive because I really do need to keep those 2 strikers up front. So that is the new tactic. Now, a word on a few things on it. Domestically, because we're quite a strong team and I'm expecting us to do well, I usually ramp that right up there, push right up the pitch and try to dominate. Same with the attacking mentality. When it comes to Europe, what I'm thinking is we drop back down to standard and we'll play with the mentality either go cautious or balanced, because we're just getting exposed a bit too much, especially away from home. And when you look at that tactic, Vitek dropping back will help, but it's still pretty attacking. We're a bit earlier this time. We've played the one match, which looks quite promising. We won 8-2, and as you can see, we created a heap of chances, and our boy Mini Paul Onuachu has started the season pretty damn well with a hat-trick in his first game. Big hopes for him. We've got the Champions League qualifiers again, even though we finished second last season, so maybe the league standing has gone up a little bit. Big question is, will this tactic get exposed again, or will it lead us to a bit more of a European result? Having successfully navigated past Zurich, 4-0 on aggregate, in the final qualifying round, we drew Giants Porto and only just got knocked out 3-4. All was not lost though, because that threw us into the Europa League straight to the league phase. That was as good as it got for Braga in this match because we absolutely dismantled them and scored 7 times in the last 30 minutes. 7 goals in 30 minutes gives us our first Europa League win, and at this slightly lower level, we were much better. This led us into the knockout stage. First up, Partizan disposed of by 3. But a tricky looking tie in the last 16 against Celtic, a team that I notoriously have a poor record against. First leg was a tough 2-2 draw, 96th minute equaliser. So we went to Celtic Park and we performed fantastically well. Lincoln with the winner as we go through 3-4 to the quarterfinals. Speaking of Lincoln, it's a shame we've only got him for one season. Quarterfinals we drew Sporting, really tough looking fixture. But it didn't look like they could deal with our wonky system as we absolutely battered them 4-1 at home. And 2 goals at Sporting send us through 6-4 on aggregate. We're in the semi-finals. A trip to Tottenham, tough. It was 2-2 at half-time, competing really well, but new Tottenham signing Yeremy Pino scored this late goal. That made it 4-2. In the home game we did score early, which gave us some hope. But Tottenham equalised and just had too much for us. Our best effort yet ends in a 3-5 semi-final defeat. Domestically we were strong again though, and we win the league yet again, and this time by a mammoth 8 points. However, the downside to that is of course it's going to stick us back in the Champions League. Season 4, knowing that we're going to be in the Champions League is pretty scary, but maybe we can drop to the Europa League? Not this time, because our performance in Europe has boosted the league level and we go straight into the group stage. Knowing that, we had to get busy in the transfer market. I took Ruben Sanchez from our rival Slavia Prague just for 50,000, and then it was all free transfers. Jakuba Barry will come in as a central midfielder. I wanted some more experience up front, and I got the great signing of Sebastian Haller. He's only 33, he can definitely do a job. But the standout signing was Mikhail Damsgaard, released by Brentford. We took him on a free transfer. High wages, but worth a risk. So we incorporate them boys into the team, and we've got a new version of the tactic just by dropping the fullback back a bit, which will mean we don't need to have Vitek as a halfback. In honesty, I think it's going to be pretty difficult to top last season because semi-finals of the Europa League might be as good as it gets, but who knows, because we have to go straight into the Champions League now. We've gone with a normal back four this time. Bit of a funky midfield. Damsgaard out here. Tempted to play him as a playmaker, but we're going to have him as a winger. Going to let him do whatever he wants. Really happy with the front two. They are elite. But it is nice to have someone like Haller as backup. So like I said, we have boosted the level of our league now, which means we go straight into the Champions League. So if you're champions of Czechia, you're into the group stage. So that's nice. As we end season 4, domestically, it looks pretty good. We win the league again by 12 points. Slavia Prague, nowhere. Baby Onuachu ripped it up this season with 27 goals in 27 league matches. But what happened in the Champions League? Well, there was some standout performances in this one. The first victory against Partizan was followed up by a mad victory away at Marseille. Look at those injury time goals. And following our next match away at Genk, for a short period of time, we were top of the entire Champions League group. That's because we won this match 8-0. It was an absolute murder. Late free transfer, Ahamada scored there. Again, he was released by Sparta Prague and I snapped him up. We put a decent fight up away at Barcelona. And overall, we've got to be happy with that league phase. We finished in 13th, higher than teams such as Bayern, Barca, Napoli. This led to us facing Sporting in the knockout stages again, and they must be sick of the sight of us as we knock them out. We go through 5-4, that's us into the last 16. And there, we draw Atletico Madrid, led by this madman. In the battle of the target forwards, Almasi and Soloff go head-to-head, and both score. 1-1, and look at the match stats, we probably should have got a win there. Because in the second leg, away from home, Atletico just had too much for us and knock us out 4-1. Some landmark performances in that season. We win the league and the Champions League campaign. We've got to be proud of that. I mean, I even forgot to highlight this one. We beat Arsenal as well, 3-2. Some big teams we beat. So this latest version really does help. Away from home, I've been dropping it to standard, balanced. But maybe next season, since we're getting these good results at home, maybe I just go attacking and just go for it. Okay, season 5, our last attempt at it. We're going to keep the tactic because it worked really well, but we're going to stick attacking in every match. I'm happy with the squad, but we bulked it up here and there with some decent players. I also took advantage of the really good facilities we have and moved some youth players into the squad. And because we won the league last season, it's going to be tough because we're straight back into the league phase of the Champions League. Alright, our first game, what an effort we put up against Barcelona. And in games we should win, we did win. Remember when I said I was just going to go attacking no matter who the opposition was? Away at Liverpool, it kind of bit me, as we go down to 10 men and get murdered 7-1. Despite that horror show, we did qualify in 21st position, which led to a knockout round match against Marseille. Now this is one of the most balmy matches I've had this year. At this point, this Halle goal sent us 5-2 up. And then, this happened. Marseille score on 80 minutes, 81 minutes, and 83 minutes. We throw away a 5-2 lead, draw 5-5. In the second leg, a boring 1-0 win. We get eliminated 6-5. Domestically, we did dominate with our greatest performance yet, winning 31 out of 35, just losing one match and scoring 112 goals. So that Marseille game is going to haunt me because that philosophy of going attacking at 5-2, I kept it. I really should have dropped it to balanced or cautious and saw that game out because who knows? Overall though, I've got to be happy, right? I mean, we won 4 out of 5 titles. The season we didn't, we won the cup. It just seemed to be a step too far for this team in the league. We are getting there, and with the money the Champions League's bringing in, the club's financial situation is 60 million. They are rolling in it. They're well happy. This is a great club to manage and a great club to do a save with. Give yourself 3-4 more seasons, you might have a chance of getting over that hump. And although we have made some transfers, we have still kept a lot of players from day one. Keeper's the same, Markovic is still there, and up front we've discovered a right gem in Durasimni here. Another booming season, he scores 42 in 47, 35 in 34 in the league. He's wanted by a heap of clubs. And this target forward we found Almasi, 6'6", just bought from Banik Ostrava, cheap, 1.5 million. And all tactics that we used, all of them dominated domestically. It's just that extra level of quality player in Europe. So the closest we got there was the semi-finals of the Cup, which means 4 clubs down, only 1 European trophy. We are trying to win a European trophy with a non-elite league team, and so far we're not doing great. So it's time for a new challenge, a new league, and today we'll go to Greece. Greece and Panathinaikos. One of the giants of Greek football with an illustrious history, 20 league titles, but none since 2010 and no European success. Despite being one of the giants of Greek football, they are ranked down in 4th place behind big rivals Olympiacos, AEK and PAK Salonika. But this is a squad I'm comfortable with because I have used Panathinaikos before in a previous video, so I'm excited to get started, and they have got a really good all-round squad for this level. There are several standouts here, including Fotis Irianadis. Now this guy is a striker, but I'm going to retrain him to be an attacking midfielder, and soon you'll see why when we go at the tactics. Alongside him you've got German wing-back Philip Max, exciting Brazilian winger Tete, and former Manchester United winger Facundo Palestri, amongst others. It really is a decent squad this. Transfer wise, they've already brought a load of players in, but to be fair they did also lose a lot of players as well. That meant the squad is pretty massive, which is a good thing, because after that busy summer transfer period, they've only left us with 900,000, so for season 1 I'm probably not going to make any major signings. And as far as recruitment goes, when we get into it, it looks pretty nice because you can have a truckload of non-EU players, so you can really build an attractive squad. Now for season 1, as you can see from the schedule, we are in the Europa League thanks to last season's exploits, so that's a decent little competition for us to start off in. And that brings us to the tactic. Now as you can see, we're going strikerless in this one purely because of the sheer amount of quality attacking midfield players we do have. And that's why I'm going to retrain our boy Ioannidis to be a shadow striker. So it starts nice and normal with a flat back 4, and I'm not even pushing the fullbacks on too much. In midfield we've got our ball winning midfielder in Maximovic, who is a very good player that just signed, and then we've got those 2 attacking midfielders. Bakasitas is an elite Greek player, and this player is on loan from PSG. Winger on one side, higher up the pitch Palestri to support our boy in the shadow striker role. Right folks, how you doing? So strikerless time for this one, so we haven't done this yet. I've got to keep it funky at this time of year, and what I'm excited about is the central midfield areas and the wide guys. They're going to support our boy up front. Now when you're doing strikerless, it's always a good idea to have a high line, high engagement, because if you drop it off, it backs off quite a lot. So we're going to keep it high. We might change to much higher on later on. Attacking mentality, purely to get the bodies up front, because we don't actually have one. So we're about to go into this Europa League qualifier Lugano. I think that's the final qualifying round. Then we'll get into the start of the Europa League. And interestingly, it's the normal Europa League to start off with. So it might be a better chance than when it breaks into the massive league. So season 1, what were we saying? Well, we started with that Europa League and it started shaky with a defeat away at Lugano. But thankfully in the second leg we just about turned it around and qualified on penalties. And the good news was the tactic was confusing the opposition and putting faith in the midfielders. Yep, it was paying off. Domestically, there was disappointment in the cup final as rivals AEK bested us. However, after a really impressive league campaign, I mean really impressive, which led to us winning our title in season 1, only losing one match and scoring 91 times. And out of nowhere, a key man in all of this was little known Laszlo Kleinheisler. Coming off the bench to play in that shadow striker role, his goals to minutes ratio was probably the best in Europe, scoring 24 in 20 starts. And it was a good job we had him because our boy Iniadis took a little while to get used to the role, but now he's a natural. I expect bigger things from him next season. So this is what we're here for, the Europa League. We got through the playoff second leg after a 4-6 win over Anderlecht, which gave us the following group, looking pretty tough, specifically Manchester United. However, this gave me faith in the tactic when we drew 2-2 at Old Trafford and probably should have won. And it was a similar story in the home match as Bakasetas gave us the lead. And only a late penalty from Bruno Fernandes stopped us beating them. This led to us qualifying in second place, deadlocked on points with Manchester United, without any defeats.
Hold up. Hey.
Our reward in the knockouts was Aston Villa. In the first leg at Villa Park we went down 2-0. In the home leg back in Greece though, our boy Kleinheisler bagged the double. But Lucadinha scored and Villa knocked us out. I mean, we're just used to it now, aren't we? So that tactic was an absolute belter in the league, and more importantly, it was competitive as hell in Europe. So we're going to stick with it, try and add some quality to it going into season 2, because by winning that league, that obviously means Champions League football yet again. So it's time to prep for season 2, and transfers out were a bit of a problem, as our boy Bakasetas was stolen by Saudi, and overall 8 players that were in the first team squad all left us. So we had to get busy spending £8 million. A special free transfer signing of Gianluca Gaetano for Napoli. Wants to play higher up, but I'm going to play him as a central midfielder on attack. Same deal for Samuel Justo, who's in from Sporting, a player with huge potential. Another signing from Napoli was Pascal Mazzocchi. He's going to play at right back. It cost me £1.5 million. And to play as a holding midfielder, we've got Eric Jr., Dina and Bimbe. Now, he used to play for PSG. We've got him from Frankfurt for £6 million. We had to sign him as late last season. Maximovic went to Saudi as well for £10 million. There was a clutch of other signings as well, such as experienced Willy Bolly for centre back and Liam Henderson for central midfield cover. It all means a slot into the tactic like this. The only slight change I've made is the role change in the defensive midfield position, just so he holds his position a little bit more. We've already had a pretty good pre-season, including drawing at home to PSG, which shows good promise, and we're about to jump into that Champions League qualifier. So I'm actually really happy with the upgrades. I think Gaetano and Justo in central midfield are going to be a nice combination, and Liam Henderson will give a bit of competition as well. Happy with that. Other than that, I didn't want to change too much. We've got good players in Tete and Palestri. Keeper's decent. Brought in a couple of new centre-backs. Happy with the full-backs. Now, we are about to jump into the playoff qualifiers. Part of me thinks, do we sacrifice it so we go back to the Europa League? So season 2 is wrapped, and it started with us qualifying for the Champions League and various impressive results. That might have been the wrong move, so domestically I started resting, which led to us getting knocked out of the quarterfinals of the Cup and the odd really bad defeat in the league. Despite that and our best efforts to not win the league, we blooming nearly did, but we didn't by 1 point as Olympiacos took it down. So we qualified for the Champions League phase, so we'd better give it our best shot, right? And we started off with a big win. And then a really good draw away at Galatasaray. A good fight against Chelsea at home and Milan. Our last game we drew 1-1 with Porto. So despite a decent effort, it just wasn't enough and we finished 31st. It's that same conundrum, folks, if you've been watching this series, where we start to dominate domestically, but then it puts you in the Champions League, and that's the problem. Now, between me and you, in this campaign, domestically, when we got into the Championship group, I started to play defensive football and changed the mentality to defensive, thinking that it would throw the league completely. And then these results happened where we actually started playing really well. But thankfully, Olympiacos beat us, and that was a key match which enabled them to win the league. So next season, we won't be in the Champions League. Now, as you can see, the 3 players down the spine of the team are the ones who definitely start every match. There is a load of good players here, but we definitely need to just get a few more in to help us out. Having said that, you can see some of the standouts. Now, Fortis Ioannidis has adapted to that shadow striker role. He ended the season with 21 in 21 in the league. Bit of time on the bench because I was rotating and he got a bit of an injury, but you can see the potential now. Klein Heisler doing it again, 14 goals, only 20 starts. The man's a machine. I just wish he was a bit younger. And then you've got loads of goals coming in from Justo. His first season was a great success, 17 goals, and he spent most of the time on the bench. So we'll go away now, do some recruitment because we've got a hell of a decent little team building now. In fact, if I include the players I think will start next season, you can see a couple of defenders in pre-season, and we might be laughing. So creeping into season 3, the one thing I did need was a bit of squad depth, so I didn't let anyone leave and I brought a decent bunch of players in. Thiago Silva joins us till December, then he's retiring, he's 41, I guess I'll let him. Centre back was my big problem and I've solved it for this season with Bitshiabu in on loan from RB Leipzig. We're going to have a one season hit from Mehdi Taremi at 34 years old, and Brazilian Ranier comes in as well on a free transfer, absolute boomer of a signing. So the tactic will revert to season 1 where I just moved the defensive midfielder back to a ball-winning midfielder. Really happy with the team, I just love another centre back to go alongside Big Daddy Bitshiabu. We had to qualify for the Europa League and we did so in a mad match against Hajduk Split 10-7. After what seemed like 100 different playoff matches, we finally got into the league phase after dismantling Shakhtar 8-1. And the league phase went pretty well. Some impressive results meant we managed to qualify, and Braga was the first knockout round. The young Greek player Limnios scored the second, and this away result got us through. And it all came crashing down as we drew Arnie Slot's Liverpool.
You son of a bitch.
Despite a great effort in the first leg, they had too much for us in the second leg and we go out 6-2. We made ourselves better by winning the Greek Cup 5-1 in the final. And after the Europa League disappointment, we fired back in the Super League. And by scoring 104 times, we won our second Greek title. So great for the fans, a league and cup double, but it also means Champions League again. We lost a few players here. I'm conscious I want to keep it quite realistic, so 5 million went out and we spent the exact same amount. The standouts were probably Malang Sarr, Josh Esbrand from City, Alderete for centre back, and Finn Stevens comes in from Juve. Not sure how he ended up there. We keep the same tactic, we look a bit more solid at centre back and defence this time. We'll be hoping that we have another big season from Gaetano, who's been ridiculous since he joined us. Last season particularly, 14 goals and 16 assists. So that team, I'm actually really happy with it. The front 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, I'm really happy with those. I don't really want to change them. I've been chopping and changing at the back to try and improve things there, but pretty happy. So we do start in the qualifiers for the Champions League, and I did think about throwing it again, but then I played the first leg and it ended 10-1. So I think what we'll do is we'll just play the European like we'll play it. Let's keep our integrity. But when we get knocked out, and we will because it's the Champions League, we'll have a look at the Super League status and we might just throw it a bit and try and get in the Conference League for our final season.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Season 4 finishes, you can see I did just that. From March, the results went down the pan. That's because at that point I just plugged in this, a generic preset 4-3-3. However, we then beat Olympiacos, not allowing them a shot, so I changed it again to this. And that seemed to do the job. Not many of the players there enjoyed that at all. But because we were so good at the start of the season, we still won the blooming league. Yep, this run at the start of the season gave us so many points in the bank that despite trying to sabotage things, it didn't work. To be fair, the Champions League started great. We qualified 18-1 in the qualifying round second leg.
What?
And in the final qualifier, we got through against Shakhtar Donetsk. But the league phase was a bit more brutal. It was only won the one match against Rangers, and we lost 5 times, and some big defeats in there as well, finishing 30th. I mean, it felt dirty to end the season playing like that, but I just thought, if we keep winning the league, we're going to have the same situation. We're going to be stuck in the Champions League. Even that didn't work. So we win the league again, this time by 3 points. Those other teams in that championship group need to have a word with themselves. It means now in 4 seasons, we've got 4 trophies, including 3 league titles. The fans will be buzzing, but my mission is getting harder. We were given our biggest budget yet, but I'm really happy with the way that we attack, so I spent big on central defence, and Strahina Pavlovic, formerly of Milan, but I got him from Atletico Madrid for 11 million. He could be the final piece in our jigsaw. That means the team looks like that, with day one as Dragowski, Tete, Ioannidis and Palestri. Really happy with the team now, it's sublime. So the plan is to fail in the qualifiers, play crap team, go down to the Europa League, and I think we've got a great chance.
Hold up.
But there's a slight problem. The Greek League has moved up in stature so much that as champions, we now go straight into the league phase. So knowing that, we're just going to go for it. We're going to go for it and see the best we can do in this final season. I've made a couple of tweaks to this tactic to try and make it a little bit better. I am going to take the risk and push right up the pitch. That way we can get more players up there. I've also added, which I think makes kind of sense, underlapped left and right, because we've got these players bombing on and a shadow striker. Let's see if that can get us over that line. As the season's wrapped, first things to say, the new tactic version looked good as there was loads of central play, and that helped us win the Greek Cup. And in the league, after a little period of adjustment, to smash that out of the park too, winning our 4th title, and this time by a massive 12 points. And it was another bumping season for Ioannidis with 36 goals overall, and Palestri went mad with 21 assists. And with another season like that from Gaetano, he could well be my best free transfer signing on FM24, closely followed by Samuel Justo. He was a superstar all season and got us off to a great start in the league phase of the Champs League. And that 6-1 was followed up by this 2-0 win. We'd won 2 out of 2. Then we played the biggest team yet, Chelsea at home, and Samuel was there again. Our best win yet, 3 wins out of 3 in the Champs League, a quality draw against Napoli. The only real down point came against Real Madrid, and we had a reason for that because after 1 minute, 50 seconds on the clock, there's our boy Josh, and he nearly killed the man. He got sent off with a minute on the clock, and we lost 6-0. But we bounced back with a 4-0 win against Porto, meaning that we qualified from the Champs League in 9th. We didn't get the worst draw either, it was Real Sociedad, and we are flying now. We go through 5-2 on aggregate, but the reward for the last 16 was Man City. We put up a brave fight at home, losing 2-1, but City's team's ridiculous at the minute. They've got Haaland and Vinicius up front, so we had no chance. We lose that one 2-1, we might have been closer. Another red card screwed us over. Overall, our best performance in Europe yet, but the Premier League just keeps robbing us. Dudes, it's another one of those. Complete domestic domination, but that leads you to the Champions League, and in the 5-season max limit, it's so tough. But what I do love about this style of save, where you're taking over these teams, it just means that you need to find different types of players. We can all buy the Wonder Kids and the set established names, but we found some players throughout this series, that have contributed massively. Like Gaetano, he's 29 years old, so he's like mid-20s when you start the game. It's not someone you'd think of, but he's just completely smashed it for us at our level. And that's Tactic version 2, they'll both be available in Patreon. I mean, for going strikerless, we put up a hell of a fight. So, other than the miracle in Bulgaria, it's another failure. Today I go to a brand new league, a brand new country, in the quest to win a European trophy with non-elite league teams. And today, we go to Belgium. Now this was a tricky choice because there's a lot of Belgian teams I like and a lot of Belgian teams you like, but I've gone for Gent for a few reasons. First up, they're a club kind of starved of success. They've only got 1 league title in 2015, 4 cups, 2022 was a recent one, and obviously no European. However, they are a club with good facilities, so we may be able to get some youth players to jump in. But the main reason was they're in the Conference League straight away. That's the first game of the season, will be a qualifier. And because of the lack of success we've had in this series, I'm trying to learn as we go. And as you can see, Gent, 5th favourites for the league title, down at 18-1. And only 1 player in the media Dream 11. Squad-wise, the good news is we've got a big squad, so rotation should be a good possibility. The bad news is, it's a little bit unbalanced. There's not a great deal of central midfielders, and there's certainly not a great deal of strikers, so we might have to go a bit out there in terms of the tactic. Financially, they're in a pretty decent spot, offering me 3 million to improve the squad. Transfer-wise, despite having a big squad, they've already let a lot of players go, and we did only bring 1 player in the striker position, Francesco Caputo. He's 37, but I guarantee he will score goals in this league. And that takes us to the tactic we're going to start with, and I did tell you it was a bit radical. If they're not going to focus in the middle, then neither are we. At the back we've got a flat back 4, but we're going to have 2 inverted wing backs to jump into midfield. This is because as we go into midfield, we're just going to use 1 central midfielder. so the wing backs will jump in alongside him. Out wide, we've got 2 defensive wingers, and just in front of those, we've got 2 inside forwards, backing up 1 striker. I know, it looks a bit daft, doesn't it? It does, but I think it's going to work. We've got 2 central defenders, which are probably 2 of the stronger players, and these 2 wing backs, one of them, Samoyasi, he does not want to be a wing back, he's more of a midfielder, check him out. But if I put him back there, it means when he jumps into midfield, he'll have a bit more class on the ball. That's the idea. As far as the league set up for Belgium, there's 16 teams and we're going to break into a championship group as well. So we need to be in that top half of the league. So as far as key players go, a lot of them will be better in a few seasons' time, such as Mamadou Sonko, already valued at 10 to 12 million. He's got a bit of growing to do. We do have a lot of quality at centre-back. I'm going to call this man Jordan so I don't butcher his last name. And he's going to be partnered by Stefan Mitrovic, 2 strong centre-backs. And we've also got some nice pace out wide. We've got a lot of good options. So I'm quite happy with the wide areas. So using the ultra-wide tactic, we floated through the qualifiers 11-2 on aggregate. Players seem to enjoy it. Then we scored 7 in the next round. You can see the tactic in action here when left back Nurio gets the ball there. He's in his normal position, but you can see him and his right back partner, when we get the ball, they'll set off and start jumping into central midfield just like that. So then we have our wingers on the outside, our 2 inside forwards will back up our main man up front, Caputo. And in this instance, it works really well. That was us into the main part of the Conference League. And after a string of big results and big performances, it was pretty much the perfect outcome as we finished top of our group, winning 6 out of 6. And our risk was paying off because in the league we were wildly inconsistent. At the halfway stage, it actually left us 8th, struggling a little bit to get in that top half, so we might have to address that. It's working a little bit too well. In fact, fast forward to February and we were hitting the skids a bit using this tactic in the league. We need to think about next season and we need to get into that Conference League. So I decided to have 2 tactics. We're going to put the Galatasaray tactic that we used with a couple of tweaks in for the league, while sticking with the wide tactic for Europe. Now this gave us an instant response. We went on a good winning streak in the league, at the same time reverting to the original tactic for the Conference League. We're seeing off Karabag in the last 16. We drew Trabzonspor with a 1-0 defeat. I'll take that after an early sending off. And then in the return leg, the wide tactic baffled them. In a back and forth match, we take it down 4-2. Season 1, we're in the semi-finals. Now as far as the league campaign goes, we structured it pretty perfectly. We went on that mad streak here when we changed tactics back, but we were playing a little bit too well. So in some games I reverted back to the wide 6, and it meant we finished 4th overall, which led us into the European playoff against Mechelen, and we got the win. That means by finishing 4th and winning that match, we actually qualify for next season's Conference League, which is a right result. Because in the semi-finals of the Conference League, we drew Chelsea. At Stamford Bridge, we put up a hell of a fight. Caputo was there again. A 3-2 defeat away from home is not a bad result at all. So massive game coming up in the home game. We started out the blocks really well. Caputo there again, what a signing. But we just couldn't hold on and Chelsea equalised through Enzo. And late in the match, 86 minutes, they got the killer goal. Pushing forward, the quarters on the break again through Madueke to Nkuku. And the boys did get another back, which gives me hope for next season. But our journey ends 4-6. What an effort. You've got to say, for a season 1, that blew out all expectations. I think we managed the league really well. Look at the state of the league positions here. So at one stage we were down in 9th. And we went on a little run, but we were starting to get a little bit too funky, so we had to calm it down a bit. But we've managed it really well. Got ourselves in the Conference League next season. We went out of the Cup at the quarter-final stage, so that blew out another option. And the semi-final performance was blooming fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, what a signing Caputo was. Eyebrows may have been raised, but he was the top scorer in the Conference League with 14, and he scored 31 overall, and I've signed him for another season to take him into his 38th year. So now it's time to think of the plan for next season. So we used 2 tactics this season. We used that one in Europe and we used this one in the league late on, and it did well. It might be a case of doing the same sort of thing and juggling it around and getting players in that I know are going to work for both systems. But when you look at our Conference League performance overall and we use that wide tactic in every match, it's probably worth sticking with, right? So after a cracking first season, it was time for season 2. Transfers out. We lost £5 million worth of players, and replaced him with 1.6. Omri Gandelman was stolen by Blackburn for a 5 million fee. Incoming though was Lovro Vonarek. Comes in from Bayern Munich on loan. Next up on a free transfer was Auer Mabil. Comes in from Grasshoppers in Switzerland. Not many standout attributes until you check out his physicals. This man is lightning fast. And the final big signing for his last hurrah, Jamie Vardy signs on a free transfer from Leicester City. That's 38-year-old Vardy and 38-year-old Caputo leading the line. So when I saw that, I thought they might need some young legs running around them. So I'm going to promote Khalifa Kamara to the first team squad as well. He looks like he's got great potential. Alongside Mateus Delors, he's going to come up as well, central midfielder. So for the season, why change things? Because we were so close last year. So we've got the European version, and we've also got the domestic version as well. And that's when Vardy will jump in, rotating with Caputo and the youngster. Don't forget, our master plan last season worked a treat, and we are back in the Conference League at the third qualifying round in August. And the pre-season odds still don't fancy us, leaving us down in 5th for the league. Right, big season this one. I don't know what to do really, because we were so close. It's just, what are Chelsea doing in the Conference League, really? Just unlucky. So we're going to keep this, and we're going to rotate the two tactics. I might even bring this into some matches in Europe as well, like the trickier ones, because let's be honest, that is wide open. So we might need to revert to this when it gets a bit tight and we need to hold on to a lead. Squad-wise, I am really happy. I am looking to sign one more player. I want a goalkeeper, and I want him to be from Belgium as well. I have brought in Selmani, but I don't think he's quite as good as he could be, so we'll have a little look around and see what we can do. But let's get on with the season, because this is massive. Conference League again. We started off as beautifully inconsistent as always in the league, winning 7-0 in our first match and losing 5-3 in our second. This led us into the Europa Conference League. We got a nice handy draw against Bohemians from Ireland, and we finished the job in the second. Through we go, 2-6 on aggregate. We had one more qualifying round, and it was against CSKA or CS48. Caputo scores, and we complete the job against the Bulgarians at home. We're into the league phase, and the league phase went pretty good. It started with a draw away at Osasuna, and Vardy scored his first in the first victory against Gothenburg, followed by this absolute assault in Greece as we dismantled Olympiacos with our new youngster scoring a hat-trick. I knew he had potential, and to be fair, what an introduction he has had. He's scored 15 and 22 in the league and 20 goals overall. We've got another big win against Dinamo Batumi, 5-1, before rounding out the league phase with 2 draws against Luzern and Omar Noia. And there's a blast from the past playing for them. So we're flying in Europe, but unfortunately, we were doing the same thing in the league as well. There'll be no cup this year as Genk knocked us out, but as you can see from the league campaign, despite a little glitch there, we're winning far too many matches until the championship group, and that's when I started to sabotage things. And it's worked. It's actually worked a little bit too well, because we're in danger of missing out on the 4th place and that European playoff here. Speaking of Europe, we're playing Osasuna again, this time in the last 16. First leg, another Caputo goal gave us a 3-1 win. And in the second leg, the wide players came to the fore as Sonko drifted in with a beautiful finish. 6-3, we're into the quarters again. And in the quarters, we were once again going to face Luzern. It's not the worst draw. And the draw looked even better when I saw their formation. Defensive winger Archie Brown gave us the lead, and we smashed them 4-0. Now take a look at their formation, and then take a look at ours. In the second leg, we wrap things up with a 2-0 win. We're in the semi-finals for the second season in a row. And this is where it gets tougher again, because this time we will face RB Salzburg. I said it'd be tough, and Salzburg came out of the blocks and took the lead after 5 minutes. This is our home match, but we found ourselves 2-0 down early. We did get one back, but in the second half, another mistake. A chronic one. That was the first leg. Despite that mistake, I still really like the keeper that I'd got on loan from Antwerp with a view to signing him permanently. The second leg was going to be a massive battle, and for the second leg, I threw caution to the wind and went attacking mentality.
Heritage.
Unbelievable. 5 goals in 50 minutes. We absolutely blasted Salzburg. They could not deal with this. It means we play Nice in the final. First season semi-final, second season final. Admittedly, if you look at the quarter-final draw, it could have been a lot worse for us. You've got Atalanta and Manchester United who ended up playing each other. And in the semi-finals, United played Nice. Well, what do you say about that? What do you say about that? Now, for the Conference League, we started with this, and at half-time I switched to this, and it seemed to do the trick as we absolutely battered them late on. It helped me get 2 strikers on the pitch. Now, Caputo has been class. He's retiring, but what a way to retire. He just needed someone to run around him, so that's why I went with a 4-4-2. Big Jamie Vardy did contribute. He scored 11 goals all season. But I think my favourite thing about what's happened with this season is the rise of the youth players. So we talked about Le Mans. There he is from Antwerp. He's joining us permanently. Snip. I'm going for a snip because they're in financial trouble. Then you've got this kid, Khalifa Kamara. He's basically the legs for Caputo and Vardy. Because it's only season 2, most of these boys were there when we got there. There's only 4 players in that starting 11 that weren't there in season 1. And it's a good job we won that as well, because if we never, next season would have been Europeless. Is that a phrase? Europeless? Because I sabotaged the league campaign so well. But that success in Belgium after only 2 seasons does mean that is our 2nd European trophy on this little mini journey. Thank God, because I was getting a bit worried. The quest to win a European trophy with the Elite League's band continues, and today we're going to Poland. So by popular demand, we're in Poland and we are with
Śląsk Wrocław.
one more for the people in the back.
Śląsk Wrocław.
The internet is telling me to say it as Śląsk, so that's what I'm going to go with. I apologise if that's really wrong. But get used to it, because you're going to have to get used to my pronunciations for this squad, but thankfully it's just a small squad, so we might get used to it. I'm not familiar with many of the players, but after having a look, there's some decent standouts, such as Tudor Baluta, who used to be at Brighton. Burak Int has a bit of potential as well, as does Sylvester Jasper. He's got a good all-round attacking attribute set. To bulk out the squad, I've also delved into the development centre and promoted youngster Filip Recek. He looks like a really good prospect. I'm going to play him as a really expressive regista. I've also brought off Viktor Kaminski. He's going out on loan first season, but next season he might make an impact. And all those players are going to be super important, because in season 1 we have absolutely nothing to spend. And to make matters worse, really annoyingly, in the summer they let go of about 15,000 players. I managed to bring one player in, and it's journeyman striker Kolbeinn Sigborsson. He's going to play as a target forward for us. I already had one at the club, but he got injured for 3 months. And the other key player for us will be our striker Savocek. As far as the tactic goes for season 1, I'm going for something like this, because I've got a pretty good fullback down the right hand side who can cover that entire flank, and that'll mean I can use Jasper or Ortiz in the middle there. In defence, we've got that one attacking fullback, and the others will stay put, including an inverted wingback to drop into the gap left by the register. Higher up the pitch, we've got quite a bit of expressiveness, but we've got an old school front 2 of a target forward with a poacher. Now, I am keeping the defensive line quite deep. That's because my defenders really lack pace. So for the start of the season, we'll keep them back. We might move them up though if they prove me wrong. So welcome along to Poland, the 10-year challenge to wrap this series up. We're going to try and win a Champions League by the time we get to that 10 season mark. It's going to be a tough ask. So the tactic looks a bit like that for season 1. It's all guessing game to start with, but down the right hand side I've got a lot of faith in Zukowski to fill those gaps. If you look at him, he wants to play slightly higher up as a complete wing back, so that gives me a bit of confidence in him, and that does allow us to go a little bit more box like up front with Ortiz. Jasper can jump in there, and then we've got that old school front 2. I think they're going to do okay. As far as the club goes, I mean, the stadium is outrageous. Look at that. And honour-wise, they have won a couple of league titles before, the last one coming in 2012, but not a lot since. Season preview is pretty unkind, actually. It has them way down in 10th at 50-1, so we might have took up a big challenge here. Pre-season's gone okay. We are in the UEFA Conference League first season, but this squad is going to have to do the lion's share of things, because we can't bring anyone in other than our boy Sigborsson up front. When we get to the end of the season, that's when we might be able to have a little look, and the registration rules in Poland are pretty decent. So our goals for season 1 is to finish as high up the league table as we can, maybe grab a little trophy somewhere, somehow, but get some money together so we can build this squad, because the squad at the minute is way off. So season 1 has come to a close. I'm going to call this one the building season. To be fair, in Europe they did pretty well. They got through the first qualifiers pretty comfortably, and they overcame a tough challenge in St. Gallen, so that's pretty impressive to be fair. But ultimately, our European journey in Season 1 was stopped by Rapid. We fell at the final qualifying stage. This was followed by a really disappointing defeat in the Polish Cup 2-1. And in the league, things were a bit stop-start as they got used to the new tactic. However, the second half of the season, things really started to pick up, including the target forward and poacher combination working really well against fancied Lecce. We hit them for 6 and both boys up front got 10 out of 10s. At the top of the table, there was a runaway winner. Rakau absolutely smashed the league and won it by 22 points. We came in third, and for the first season with our squad, I don't think that's too bad. Okay, third place, I think that's a decent result. We're back in the Conference League next season, which obviously isn't the Champions League, but it's not a bad start. And the best thing about this season was the rise from some of the youngsters. Remember, we focused on Recic, who came up for the development centre. Apologies if his name is getting butchered there, I'm trying my best. He's had a great little season with 11 assists, and look at the teams that are after him now. Roma and Fiorentina. It's a similar story for Tudor Baluta, Leeds, West Brom, Lorient and Stade Reims, all after him after another pretty good season. And we were right to back our fullback because he ended up with 19 assists all season. So overall, that tactic, we're going to tweak a few things on it. I want to push up a little bit higher, and that's why I've got gaps across that defence, because I'm going to try and replace those players with some quicker options. Season 2 will begin with the horrible news that our top scorer from last season, 21 goals, he's going to be out for most of the season. Alongside that, we need pretty much a new defence and goalkeeper. Thankfully, we've got a bigger budget than last season with £3 million, and we're going to need it. We started Season 2 with the signings that are really needed. Gerard Martin came in from Barca Athletic, and another free transfer was Rocky Bashiri. He's going to be the physical presence we needed at centre-back. For striker, we bought Shooter Machino from German football for 800,000, and I went down to the Polish second division to sign Martin Turk as our new #1 goalkeeper. Tactically, we are going to make one change now we've got those new players in defence. We're going to push up a little higher and step up a little bit more. Also in the team is our new striker Kaminski. We sent him out on loan last season and he finished up being the top scorer in the second division in Poland, so this time he gets his chance for us. And we'd gained a little bit more respect in the pre-season odds, and they have us at 5th at 15-1. So it's all guns blazing for Season 2. I've just signed 2 more players, and one of them's a bit of a legend. It's a bit of a punt. Vincent Abu Bakar, he's just had a big old season in Turkey. He's there to provide some experience up front. And late in the window, Jonathan Panzo. Probably too good for us. He's already valued the team 1 and 2.6 million. Free transfer, get in. They're going to slot in. There's been a couple of changes. I've gone for no-nonsense centre-backs. I've pushed that line a bit higher. I'm distributing straight to my boy, the playmaker Register. We need a better league performance this time. We need to get into that Champions League, start earning that money. So, Season 2 turned out to be an absolute disaster. From the moment our board sold our young superstar from under my nose for 2.3 million, things went wrong. We got knocked out of the Polish Cup by Lechia. In the Conference League, we actually qualified just in 24th position. But then in the playoff round, after we'd beaten Bromby at home and absolutely smashed them, we should have scored a ton more. We went into the second leg and Keyman Balata got sent off for that. And then Bromby scored 5 of their 6 shots on target and smashed us. What the hell is that? Add to that the league campaign in which we drew far too many matches and finished in 6th. And more worryingly, absolutely no European football. It's fair to say the tactic change didn't really work, so back to the drawing board for Season 3. Okay, it's fair to say that season was pretty disappointing. We never got going and they stole our best player. So I've had a little rejig of the tactic. I'm going to give Burak Ince a little fly in central midfield. If it doesn't work, I brought a load of backup in so we can change shape again. Check them out. So I've got a clutch of free transfers here. I've got Dylan Bent, who's a Dutchman who can play up front. He'll give us some good options. Along with Alvaro Jimenez, who can provide cover out wide. A bit of class in the midfield from Jacobo Petroni. I've also got a new inverted wing-back in Joel Bagan. Options for right wing-back with Maxime Savis. And I spent 750,000 on a player from the Polish League. His club have just got relegated. It does mean now that I've got a pretty big squad. And remember, this season, no Europe, so we can just go full on and try and get up that league table. And to do that, we'll be using a bit of a 4-2-4 with a redrawn Register, but you've got to remember that he's going to spend most of his time up there. So that's why I've got 2 inverted wing-backs to jump inside, and the wingers providing the width. Well, it took a little while this time, didn't it? But we finally get the league title after Season 3, after a fantastic effort. And I tell you what, It's not the usual style we do it with either. We started the season with that little asymmetrical 4-2-4, but at the winter break, just around here, we changed it slightly, and for the rest of the season, we went undefeated. There is the season 3 tactic, and it is basic as you like. 2 central midfielders in support roles, so not even anybody in the DM zone, because the inverted wingbacks were doing that job. A couple of wingers supplying the crosses to the strikers. And that gave us that league title with 77 points, so well clear of second place team. We've still got a game to go. And we've done it conceding only 18 goals, and we only scored 47. A completely different style for us. Very different style for us. We changed it halfway through because Burak wasn't working in that register role, so I went with 2 flat central midfielders, thinking that these 2 inverted wingbacks would do the job in there, and it's worked a treat. Super solid. And it does mean that next season we get into the Champions League on season number 4. It's our first crack at it. I'm not expecting anything big time, but what I am expecting is it'll give us some funds to help improve this squad. As it stands, next season they're offering us 4.84 million. That'd be pretty nice if it holds at that. We might need to get a little bit more attacking going into Europe, but as far as the tactic goes, I don't want to change too much. So into season 4, I'm winning the Champions League this year, so we need to be clever, but we still need to qualify again next year. For that reason, I decided to make a couple of tweaks to the tactic. I'm going to put Bogard into defensive midfield because he's a bit better there. I'm going to push a fullback a little bit higher, and I'm going to ask one of my strikers to get a bit more aggressive. And there is Lamar Bogard, who we signed on a free transfer from Aston Villa. Joe Hodge for midfield on a free from Wolves. Goalkeeper Oliver Zeke is a Polish player who's came in from Villa. And the possible standout was centre-back Laris Moyakolo. We got dumped out of the cup at the semi-final stage this time, and the league campaign started electric, but we did fall off when the Champions League started, but we managed to claw it back, and on the final day of the season it was a title decider, first v second, and Machino bagged a hat-trick. That gave us our second successive league title, but what a super tight season it was. And again, we did it without blown away teams, just keeping it rock solid at the back. Now, our season in the Champions League, it started well with a 7-0 aggregate win in the qualifier, followed by a 6-3. And in the final qualifier against Rangers, we did the double over them, winning 4-1. So we make our debut in the Champions League, and the first game was against Arsenal. Then it started to get tough, but we put up a good fight against PSV. We got our first point against Malmo. Machino was there again against Salzburg to get our first Champions League win. However, the rest of the league phase was pretty brutal as we came up against some big teams. And we ended our first campaign 32nd, but at least we got that big win against Salzburg. That run has contributed to our overall financials looking pretty good at 21 million. And it does mean that next season our transfer budget is creeping up ever so slightly. And it does look like we've unearthed a gem in Machino. Remember, he only cost us 800,000, but he scored 27 times this season. And I was right about the centre-back Lloris with a super strong season, and he's now wanted by a clutch of clubs. However, going into season 5, we might have to change the tactic up again just for a better Champions League performance. But I did almost forget to mention Breton Boju, who is our club record signing at 1.7 million. He had to get shifted out to the left wing, and I wanted him to start up front. Reason being, at this level, we keep getting our prized assets stolen, and Ortiz ended up at Genoa halfway through the season. Pre-season season 5, they're actually upped the transfer budget to nearly 12 million. Let's go. It's fair to say the transfer window was hectic. 4.1 million out, 3.6 million in. I had to get a load of backups in for the extra fixtures, and I've also started planning for the future as well, because this could be a long save. So 23-year-old Husni comes in, 18-year-old Lufner, and we stole this player from the league below, Stefan Koszyczki. Wow, that was hard. Season started okay, and we're just about to jump into the Champions League. Let's go season 5. And we continued our good form in the league, securing our third straight Polish league title with 75 points. But the players enjoyed it, and as for the Champions League, this is where things got a bit interesting. We cruised through the only playoff game we had to, 6-0, and then we got a really comfortable 1-0 win in our first league phase game, and we were so close to probably the biggest result in our history when this own goal from Camavinga meant we nearly beat Real Madrid. They equalised in the 82nd minute. There's also wins against Astana, a thumping win against Anderlecht, and probably our best performance yet as we beat Porto at home. A huge result as we qualify from the Champions League in 17th place, ahead of Manchester City. We won 4 out of 8, which is superb. We lost 3 times, some heavy defeats away from home against some big teams. But it did mean we went to the knockouts against Marseille. And away from home, despite a really good performance, we go down 5-3 on aggregate. Look, it's disappointing, but it's definitely progress, isn't it? We're into the playoff rounds now. Some of the biggest results in history, and the team was really good. Now, what I liked about it was I did get the youngster involved. Do you remember we signed him? Kostrovicki, there he is. He played 37 games overall, 15 assists, and his Champions League performance was superb. 7 appearances, 5 assists. He's definitely one to watch. The tactics seem to work pretty well. We might make a couple of tweaks here and there. I'll have a little analyse of which players and which positions didn't really perform. And then we'll have a little tweak for next season, but we are making big progress. And look at this, because of our Champions League performance, the transfer budget is up to 35 million. That's because the board are well happy, because they've got 45 million now. Into season 6 we go. We're stepping up a gear now, so the transfers reflected that, with 29 million spent. This is unheard of in Poland. Sander Berge joined from Fulham, Harry Clark to play wing-back, Bukima comes in for centre-back, and the club record signing of BESAR. He can either play up front, shadow striker, or out wide, making sure to buy a youngster for the future as well. This means, although the squad is quite small, it is loaded with talent, and you can see that for the first time we are comfortable favourites for the league. The end of another season, and it's our another league title. We've got that locked. This time we do it by 10 clear points, only losing one match, so tactically for Poland we've got it locked down. There's the boys, they enjoyed it. Now, what a signing. We took a risk, didn't we, with BESAR. There he is, we spent big money on him, but it paid off because he scored 19 in 29 and he got 3 in the Champions League. More of that now. Again, we cruised through the playoff stage against Dinamo, but this time we only got 2 wins in the league phase against Partizan and my boys Panathinaikos. This time we drew against Celtic, but the performance of the season was this one. Barca had just gone 2-0 up, but after 72 minutes, there is BESAR. Got us back into it. And then in the 83rd minute, left back, Bergen, out of nowhere, gave us a 2-2 draw away at Barca. The rest of the games were pretty tough. I mean, we had a tough draw there. Arsenal, Barcelona, Bayern, Milan. But we qualified again, so that's 2 out of 2. Scraped it this time in 23rd. Unfortunately for us, that meant we had to draw a big team, and it was no bigger, it was Real Madrid. After putting up a good fight at home, losing to a late penalty, the task proved to be too much at the Bernabeu, and they battered us 3-0. So we're eating into the seasons now, but it's the knockout round we can't get past. At least we're establishing ourselves as a good Champions League team now, though. Now, we did spend all that money, didn't we? 29 million, but we had it thanks to the Champions League money. But really annoyingly, one of the young players we bought, Stefan Kozicki, remember we bought him for like 200,000? Why has he gone over there? Why has he gone to Saudi Arabia at that age? So as we go into the next season, it's on me to try and improve this squad. We did improve it with the likes of Sander Berge and the centre-back, and obviously BESAR. But we need to get past these knockouts. Season 7 pre-season, so many players turned us down for other clubs. So many. This is the hard part about this save. So I had to be clever, and I was starting to get new Gen City as Asaf Dursan signed from one of our divisional rivals, and I took Jürgen Elatim from Liga, and Paulo Neves came from Wisla Krakow. There was one star signing though, Richarlison. He's 33, but I think he can do a job, keeping a similar setup to last season. The only thing I've changed, I brought Register in. Guess what? Yep, you guessed it. We won the league again. A little bit tighter this time, but still only lost the 4 matches. I mean, it's a super solid 4-2-3-1. And when BESAR scored his second goal away at Lens, we were actually second in the Champions League group. But then the big teams came into play. A shocker at Newcastle and Arsenal. And that result against Copenhagen was a massive blow. And it meant this time, we didn't qualify after finishing 27th. It's going to be back to the drawing board, and I'm going to toss out the 4-2-3-1. Because despite absolutely dominating Polish football, I mean, look at that. We're still really struggling to break this Champions League. Right, so this is a big season. I'm not sure what to do, but I'm going to go for a 4-2-4, so we're going to get even more aggressive, which is probably a stupid idea for the Champions League. Been really busy in the transfer market. I've let 9 million go. Richarlison left. Do you know what, to be fair, he had a good little season with us. I think he managed, he scored 9 in 28, so he did his job. But I replaced him with Strand Larsen, who I think will be a better all-round forward, and he's at a better age. There was also some other signings from our very own league. Asper Jensen comes in from Rakow for midfield, and Prince Arnin comes in for left back. I also brought in Calvin Phillips as midfield backup, and keeping the Polish flavour with striker Szymon Wojciech. Polish people, I'm sorry, I'm trying. I'd expect a big season from some of them young players we bought in. Asaf Dursun is going to be ridiculous. Look at his crossing, look at his pace. And Neves, now he's fully fit. Paulo Neves, he's 22, started to get into the team last season, but I expect big things from him. Now, at the start of the season, we've started fantastically, including absolutely destroying Shakhtar 9-0 in the Champions League qualifier. Needless to say, that got us through. And in the league, we're 100%, so I've got high hopes. We're going to the league phase, and I'll have a little look at our league phase fixtures now. So what we've got is a mixture of really tough ones and some easy ones as well, so fingers crossed. At this stage, it's no surprise to tell you that we've won another Polish Cup. And we've absolutely trounced the league in our best performance yet with 87 points. 91 for and only 20 against. And as predicted, Neves has shot up. 26 in 28 in the league, 38 overall, including 9 in the Champions League, and he is a wanted man. Some players were stolen off us as the season went, including Asaf Dursan, who ended up at Saudi. What a waste, what a waste. But again, I tried to future-proof my team by bringing in Caetano Lima from Man City and Adilson from Santos. Champions League phase, we got our win, including that one against Bruges, wow, and another against Lazio. We needed that because we'd lost against some big teams like Benfica, and I'm not quite sure what happened away at Chelsea, but Badashile did score a hat-trick, so I'm guessing their set-piece FC'd us. That meant we finished in 19th in the league phase, winning 4, losing 4, definite progress. But the reward was Liverpool. Expecting to be steamrolled, we put up a great fight at home and only lost 1-0. In the second leg, I dropped down to a standard line, and again a stunning effort, a 1-1 draw at Anfield, but we go out 2-1. I am getting attached to this club now. We are winning, completely dominating domestically. We just can't get past this blooming playoff round, and to be fair, how unlucky is it to get a club like Liverpool against you? We've still got one game left in that league, but we've crushed it. And it shows how deep into the save we are now when you look at the team there, and you can see new gen, regen City starting to creep into it. But if we are to have any success, it's absolutely vital we hold on to Paulo Neves. 38 goals this season. Remember, last season we bought him for 300,000 from a divisional rival. The question is, going into season 9, that dominates at home. I need to find one that will dominate in Europe. Going into season 9, desperate times called for desperate measures, and I appointed Romelu Lukaku as my assistant manager. And for some reason, he's one of 4. Again, I was very active in the transfer market, trying desperately to claw this Champions League gap. I've taken young Bayern Munich goalkeeper Lukas Gilsbach on loan for 2 seasons. I've got more youth from the Polish leagues, and I think this one's the key signing. Jan Manuel Acedo, we've got him from Man City. They have never played him, but he's going to be a worldie. He'll be mentored by Tammy Abraham, alongside a clutch of other good-looking signings. Now, this season, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I've got this one, then I've got another version here, which is a back-off version, which I used a bit last season, but I'm going to play around with it. I think the 4-2-4 is the way to go, and it's probably time to mess with the roles a bit, so drop them a bit more negative in tough Champions League matches, but the front two are going to be key. Neves last season was outrageous. Loads of teams want him. They can't have him. He's got no release clause. He's staying. He has already started the season with 11 in 10. Acedo, the signing from City, has got 9 in 9. Those two are ripping it up. I've also got this young Polish winger Damian Beglart on loan from Inter. It was one of those stupid transfer deals. There it is. I bid for him. He went to Inter. They've agreed to loan him to us, and we can sign him at the end of the season. Now, looking at my squad, it's packed now. It's packed. But I think we need to focus now. Thoroughly focus on the Champions League. We're into the league stage because the season started that well that we destroyed Ferencváros 7-0 away from home, with the 2 strikers scoring a bucket load, and we've just finished them off with a 4-0, and we absolutely dominated. You can see why I don't want to change that 4-2-4. As I put my first choice team in, you can see the amount of new gen regens in there. Because we are in 2031, we are deep into this, but what we have done well is we started recruiting them a few seasons back, like Neves, so it just means that now they're a bit more experienced, ready to explode. With the season wrapped up, we won another Polish Cup, and Acedo, I knew he was going to be good. So we won that one 6-0. And Acedo has scored 41 times in 44 matches. He has been ridiculous. His strike partner Neves has missed a massive chunk of the season, but still scored 34 in 33 matches. That was despite missing 4 months of the season with a broken leg. Those two are ridiculous. We won the league yet again, and it's by an absolute mile. We've got to be the most successful team in Polish football history now, right? And looking at the legends list, it must be, because we are now certified an ironclad legend. Are we a legend because of our Champions League performance? Well, this defeat to Porto was the first game in the league phase, but we followed it up with a 6-1, a draw against Ajax, another draw against Liverpool, and a really good draw against Atalanta. This was our best league performance in the Champions League yet, and we went to Salzburg and smashed them 4-0. Chuck in a 3-1 win over Marseille, And a mighty impressive 1-1 draw away at PSG means we qualified in 16th, but we'd only lost one match the entire campaign. And in the knockouts we drew Ajax, 2-2 in the first leg away at Amsterdam, and with Neves injured, Jordan Strand Larsen stepped up to the plate, scored a double, sent us through. We've got through that round. We finally make the round of 16, but unfortunately for us, we drew Real Madrid again. However, in a really good counter-attacking performance, he was there again. He gave us a 2-1 win, probably the best result in our history. And then at the Bernabeu, he only scored again. Unfortunately for us, that was the last goal of the match, and Real Madrid had already scored 4. Best performance yet, another treble domestically, and we've got farther in the Champions League, but that's 9 seasons now. We just can't get past these big boys in the knockouts. So what we did to get a bit more success that time was we had the initial tactic there, ultra aggressive, but away from home in some Champions League matches we dropped to this, where the 2 central midfielders dropped back, and at our possession we dropped back a little bit more as well. Seemed to work. We're definitely better. It's easy to be downcast, but my hope is that these 2 up front next season, if they stay fit all season, we should have a real good chance. It's season 10. What a ride it has been. That beautiful stadium. I've grown to love this club, and what an off-season we have had. As you can see from this screen, I have spent all pre-season fighting off offers for all of our players, and I've backed it up with £33 million worth of talent. The permanent signing of Damien Vaglas from Inter Milan. John Durand comes in. He's going to be a cover player, but what a cover player to have. João Cardoso comes in on loan from Man City for the last season. What a centre-back. And I spent big on a right-back. Arta comes in. And a free transfer signing of Fabrizio Diaz. All that means now we have some options in this team. It's the best team I've had in this 10-season stretch. Now we've completely dominated Polish football. The goal now is to get past that last 16 and see how close we can get to this Champions League. 10 blooming seasons. We're always odds on favourite to win the league now, and you can look at the Dream 11, it's nearly completely us. There's only 2 players there who sneak into it. So for those big Champions League matches, we've got this option here, which is the more defensive version, but we've also got the option, because Acedo is quite capable of dropping into the number 10 slot. He can drop in, give us an extra central midfielder. This is the big chance. Those front 2 have just got to stay fit. The first big news, both strikers stayed fit all season, leading to us winning the cup again. So when we had a big Champions League match coming up, quite often I would do this. I would go up here to pick rotated squad, full rotation, and then just play everyone who isn't normally playing. Now, despite that quite risky approach, although we lost a couple of matches, we still took down the league title with 81 points. And after cruising through to the Champions League phase 10-0 on aggregate, we started pretty shaky with a draw against Porto, defeat to Sevilla, another draw against Marseille, and a defeat to PSG, winless after 4. However, a slight change to the tactic led to a big turnaround in results, starting with Besiktas away. That 3-0 win was followed up by a 4-2 demolition of Leverkusen, and a quality draw in our final game at Bayern meant we qualified the knockouts. In the knockouts, it was Sevilla again who'd already beaten us. First leg, Acedo was there again, a tight 1-0 win. Now this was the first real big nail-biter in our Champions League run. Goals were flying in all over the place, and it led to going to extra time. Extra time led to penalties. That penalty got us through. Into the last 16, it was Spurs, and we kind of stole a 1-0 win in the first leg. Spurs randomly had Cabadonna playing for them, and annoyingly he scored 2 penalties, but also scoring twice was the other half of our duo, Neves. In an epic, we go through after a 4-4 draw, but then we're great by Real Madrid again. First up at the Bernabeu, we adopt our new setup. It's still the 4-4-2, but if you look at the in-transition instructions, we've dropped the counter press, we go full on regroup. The miracle of Madrid led us to Arsenal in the semi-finals. And in the home leg, our counter regroup combination completely bamboozled them. They just couldn't deal with it, and especially the pace and movement of our front 2. They got a late consolation, but we hadn't finished yet either. Probably our best performance yet in this entire journey. But it was still a big ask going to the Emirates, so we went with the away formation, Arsenal playing a back 3. A goal apiece in the early stages, and Arsenal was starting to put on the pressure. Half time though, we were doing the job, but you can see the match momentum was coming towards us. But in the second half, this vital goal from Sek meant it was time to clock in some time wasting and dropping that mentality back. And that completely neutralised Arsenal as we've done it. We're in the Champions League final. So after 10 seasons, we've made it to the final, and it was against Manchester United. Even they can turn things around after 10 years. I was tempted to attack them with the original tactic, but this one has treated us so well in the Champions League, I'm going to stick with it and just look at how many players I wanted of our squad. This truly is the end of the road because they're going to break up after this. I'll tell you what, we haven't won many trophies in this little series, but that one will go down in infamy. I said at the start of the season, if we can keep these two fit, Acedo and Neves, we've got a chance. And 34 goals and 11 in the Champions League from Acedo. And Neves took a bit of a back seat with 34 goals, but them two, dynamite. The team has finished full of little new gen regens. We've got the keeper, two centre-backs, they're both wide players, both strikers. And we've got Esugo, Arta and Anin holding the fort for the real-life dudes. It actually means, if you include the season opener, that's a quadruple. I actually thought I was losing count here. I was like, I've only done 9 seasons, but it doesn't include the last season for some reason where we finished third. So we've gone third, sixth, and then we've won the league every season in Poland, and that is a lovely way to finish it. And do you know what's dead cool? Down in Legends, not only am I there, but the front two, Acedo and Neves, they're there as well. The big change that got us there was not relying on the tactic that was dominating domestically like I've done in other seasons and other clubs. It was changing it slightly for Europe with this one, with the counter regroup approach against better teams, and it worked a treat. None of them could deal with it. We've kind of changed this club now because they've got 61 million in the coffers. But like I said, it may be unrealistic us winning the Champions League, but what is realistic is when a team is successful at that level, all their players are wanted. Look at that. So most of these players will probably move on and break up an iconic squad. And that seems a good place to end this little mini series. We've been all around Europe, but ending on that, we can't top that, can we?